Good evening, gentlemen.
Doctor. Oh, wait, you're not doctor.
Travis.
Hello.
Brandholio.
How you doing, buddy?
I am better than I deserve. That's an old Dave Ramsey one, isn't it?
That's right.
I've never pulled that one out. Welcome to United Divided. This is Brandon Pfeiffer, a longtime friend. We met back in a former career that we both hated greatly. But one of the good things about it was I was able to meet many good people. None that I've enjoyed and stayed friends with nearly as long as you. So I appreciate that very much. Made the time worth it, as it were. In the meantime, you were I don't want to say you were one of my first podcasts back in the old building, but it was one of the first. I mean, you're probably in the first 15 or so. I
Yeah, it was pretty early.
You and your wife, Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So welcome back. And in the meantime, the reason I brought you back is because you've had a lot of new things going on in your life. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the things that you're involved in overlap with a lot of the things that we're trying to do as a nation. A lot of overlap with Maha movement, nothing to do with Donald Trump or MAGA, just making America healthier than it is for sure. And so that's mostly, besides just hanging out with you, that's kind of really why I wanted to sit down with you today.
Sure.
So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So just tell the audience that don't know who you are, kind of just give an intro however you want, and kind of let them know what you're doing now and why.
All right. Well, I'm, as Chad said, my name's Brandon Pfeiffer. What I'm doing right now, I've got this new farm operation I've started. I actually farmed, I started being a conventional farmer 20-something years ago, ended up almost going broke, mainly because the very expensive inputs such as fertilizer and seed that's patented and all this, and by the time you're ready to sell, you're at the mercy of the buyer, and they're not going to pay you very much. And I almost lost everything I owned. We restructured the farm. Took a lot of years, almost 9 years, but we went to where it was more of a health-based type of agriculture that we do now. We do what I'm sure a lot of your audience is aware of, organic and regenerative ag. We do that. We produce beef, pork, chicken, eggs, popcorn, and other grains. The whole idea is to be basically a vertically integrated operation where we have control of all the inputs we're putting in there, so we know we're providing these animals with the healthiest food possible, with the long term being providing healthy food for our customers.
Sure. And so you were what is the term for a standard farmer? I guess it's like a conventional farming. I saw something that I've got several clips, but one of them, it says there's only two types of farming: regenerative and degenerative.
That's right.
Which is pretty interesting. And one of the things that we talk about from the tyranny angle is, food security, not just the fact that we've got junk food and stuff in a box that you should never have eaten in the first place.
Dies.
The soil, filled with herbicides and pesticides. And so, I was really excited when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was making the rounds prior in the Maha movement and talking a lot about regenerative farming. And I think that's been stalled a little bit. And I think it has a lot to do with his full frontal attack on Pharma. And so they're just inundating him kind of in that realm. Sure. So, what do we got? What do we have here?
We have some organic Pop Yonkers popcorn made by Mr. Brandon's company.
Oh,
awesome.
Look at this. Yeah, I'll find a way to find somewhere to put that.
Well, thank you.
Well,
this is my wife Shonda's first time seen on the podcast.
We don't need to see Shonda.
Thank you for that.
And there's popcorn all over my kitchen now.
Here, Brandon, go ahead and grab a hold of that and just kind of listen. Since she brought it in, thank you, Shonda. I appreciate that very much.
feels like a commercial.
Smells delicious.
It smells delightful.
Product endorsement.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Smells delicious. Thank you, dear.
Pop
Love you.
Yunkers. Don't leave home without it.
Oh, and now we got a guest visit from the dog.
The dogs too.
The dog. Here comes Betty's in here now.
Betty, come on. I'm sorry.
I was going to say
Out,
on
Betty.
this
Go on.
logo here, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can really see it at a distance, but that is an actual picture from
Thanks,
our
honey.
family farm, and that was Pop Yunker with his mules, Bob and Red, and then my dad, who was a little over 2 years of age, was riding on the planter,
Oh, wow.
and then Pop was walking behind it. So anyway, that's what we used as our
That's your logo or your
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I'm gonna take a handful here.
You gonna take a hit?
Yeah, take a handful because I've had a bunch of it. I'm pretty sure Brandon's had a lot
A
of
lot.
it. A lot.
A lot.
And I'm gonna
Got me through some winters.
That's right.
give some to Travis.
Travis needs it.
So since she brought in the popcorn,
Got it.
since she brought in the popcorn, why don't you just talk a little bit about kind of the popcorn, and then I know your corn is being used in some other areas too. At least
Yep.
it was. So I don't want to overstep what you're into now. So just tell people a little bit about the popcorn, where it's available,
Sure.
the details.
Sure. So the popcorn, that was actually our first step into organic regenerative farming. What had happened, a little background on this, and it's probably a good time as any to tell you how I got in this organic angle, I guess you'd
Why not?
call it.
Yeah, sure.
So basically what happened, we were having terrible financial trouble. I mean, I can't explain how close we were to going under and losing our house and everything. And it was around this time, now it's been 6 or 7 years ago, I was still trying to get the crops in. We were having just one breakdown after the other. And my daughter and I were together, and she said, "Dad, I'm having trouble seeing through my right eye." A few days goes by, and then she could almost see nothing through her right eye. And I made an appointment for her. We went in to get it checked out. Well, she was diagnosed with MS.
Wow.
And
Very young, right?
very young, yeah. And I was just devastated. In fact, I remember had a payment coming due on one of the pieces of equipment, and I was with my daughter. She was having these transfusions, and I remember having to deal with the banker on one end, and I'm up there with her, and not knowing if she'll ever get her sight back on her right eye, and it was a really trying time. But she was really pushing me to get into organic, and shortly after that, my wife actually they found some masses on her ovaries. And there again, I was out in the combine. She called me, and she ended up having to have 2 surgeries. And then I ended up with what they had diagnosed me with kidney failure, chronic kidney disease. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, "There's got to be something. This is not making sense.
Right.
Why are we having so much sickness in
All
our
of us
family?"
at the same time is
Yeah.
a little weird.
And so anyway, while this time too, I've decided I'm just going to give up farming. I just told my wife, I was like, "Gosh, I'm going to miss this so much, but there's no way I can keep doing it. We're going to lose everything." And she said, "Well, what if we downsized it? And is there something you really loved about? What do you love about farming? And if we look back over your years?" And I said, "Well, probably one of the most fun I had was working with my great grandpa, Pop Yunker, and us growing popcorn." And I said, "It's kind of interesting. We did it all organically. We didn't call it that at the time, but Pop had never used it. He had retired from farming by the time the chemical revolution had started. So basically, he's going to teach me how, but it's going to be his
The
way."
old school way.
So that's what we did. And then I also grew Indian corn, and then he helped me set up a stand. He sold mums. I sold Indian corn and popcorn and all this stuff actually out the farm. And people would come on when the mums came in, we'd have all this stuff, and there would be people lined up from, I don't know, probably a quarter of a mile to get mums and
Wow.
all of our stuff. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was really neat. Today you wouldn't see that. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy your mums and all that stuff. And so anyway, she said, "Well, why don't you just start small and go back to that?" So that's what we did. Our first year, we just did about maybe a quarter of an acre of popcorn. And then I got to look and I'm like, well, something else that hit me. I was like, I had 2 great grandpas, and one of them lived to be 111, was Indiana's oldest man.
Dang.
The other one Pop Yunker lived to be 93. Both of them, until my great grandpa Pfeiffer was 105, he'd never been to the hospital.
Wow.
And then my great grandpa Yunker, until he was 92, had never been. And then I saw him thinking, these guys lived such a long life, and they were farmers. They even, both of them, smoked cigars and pipes and chewed. But what was interesting, my great grandpa that lived to be 111, his son, which was my grandpa, died at 60 of cancer, and who was very involved with the chemical revolution. And then on the other side of my family, the son lived to be 68, died of cancer. So Pop Yunker's son died at 68 of cancer. Then the next generation down, my grandpa's son died at 72 of cancer. He was a farm chemical salesman his whole life. And then on my uncle that died at 68, his son died at 69 of cancer. Really bizarre cancer. All of them were heavily involved in the chemical revolution of agriculture. So I was like, I think there's something to this. And this is before I knew about the Maha movement or anything. I didn't even know enough about it. I'd never been to an organic grain conference or anything. All I knew is I didn't want anything to do with any of these chemicals anymore,
right,
or any of this genetically modified grain. We got away from all of that.
So the GMO
I have
stuff.
to say this popcorn's terrible, so I'm gonna have to take it all off your hands. So I don't want you to have to throw it away. I'll take care of it.
That might be an unopened bag, and since I didn't feed you any proper
you don't
food
have
today,
to give me. It's okay.
I can get you some more too.
for a
you know
fee,
a guy
for a fee.
Yeah, that corn. It's something kind of interesting too. We went with some varieties that we think, from what we can tell, were brought up through South America by the Native Americans and made their way up this way. And there's a lot of different sizes of the kernels, but the flavor is just incredible. You know, it was not bred for high yields; it was bred for flavor. And then by using this regenerative ag system we're using, it's amazing the flavor. We've tried it, growing it where we didn't do that, and then trying it in where we've done the cover crops and running the animals on it and everything. The flavor is night and day difference. In fact, my sister, I'd sent her both, and she goes, I don't understand. How can there be such a different flavor between the two when it's the same popcorn?
So is it considered like heirloom corn? Okay,
Yeah.
So explain to the people that don't know, that aren't farmers on here, what's the difference between a GMO seed versus an heirloom seed, or something more organic?
So an heirloom seed, it could have been like, they still selectively bred it, but it would not have been genetically modified. Where with a genetically modified seed, you could. I mean, I'm just making this up. I can't say this, but let's say there's a gene from a goat that would work well in the corn kernel to make it do better. They can somehow
Inject that into it.
Yeah, and this is just the only thing that they ever did with this was selectively bred it.
Well, and GMO also isn't part of the seed build having to do with it being able to put herbicides and pesticides on it. So, it only really works. The whole system really only works if you put the proper amount of chemicals in it over time.
Yeah, and then also you've got the seeds where they're genetically bred to, keep away certain insects and stuff like that. And then they use a seed treatment, I think, that actually goes into the system of the plant to kill whatever worms, earworms or whatever. And that, they think, is maybe part of the reason we're seeing such a diminishing supply of beehives in the country. So, which would make sense. It's killing the larvae that these other animals or other bugs are putting into the corn.
Well, this is completely out of left field, but like I grew up quail hunting, and when I was growing up, I mean, there were quail everywhere. I could walk around a family farm. My family had about 160 acres, I think, but we had access to all the stall farms around us, 500, 600, I don't know how many acres, but I could walk fence rows and wood lines and ditch lines for days and see, it was no real big thing for me to go out and see 4 coveys just walking out of my backyard. And the quail basically just started diminishing greatly. And I'm not on the board. My wife is secretary of local Quail Forever chapter, and I always ask the people who come down who work for corporate. I'm always trying to pinpoint them and say, have we learned any more about why the population is down? And they always tippy-toe around it. I have no doubt that it overlaps with. They got rid of a lot of the habitat as well, right? Because they basically try to sow and reap as much as they possibly can. They're getting rid of the thickets and all that stuff. But every time you would shoot a quail on an edge of a field, it would have a big gullet of corn or wheat or whatever in its neck, and I guess that's where they store it when they're digesting it. But again, it was it just overlapped so perfectly with all the GMO stuff and the chemicals and the herbicides and the pesticides. I mean, like you said, if they can put stuff make the thing where a certain bug can't eat it, that can't be good for the natural cycle of a bird.
I totally agree.
So anyway, that was way into left field there, but so coming back to the seed corn, so you grow the corn. It's not GMO. So I know a lot of times seed companies have, I don't know what it's called, but they basically own the rights to the seed and you can't do certain things with it. Can you kind of explain to us like the difference in a standard commercial ag product, a seed, for seed, planting seeds versus what you do?
Yeah, the like the seeds that we're talking about, they're GMO. Sure. Most of them, if not all of them, are patent protected. You cannot replant that. On corn, it would be tough for it to grow either way, even if you had a hybrid corn that wasn't GMO. But on beans, that's the big one. You cannot replant it and sell it.
So you couldn't buy a bushel of anything and then go out and replant it in a field?
No, if it's patent protected and most likely a GMO one, no, you could not.
Whereas I think you told me whenever I first started getting this from you, you could technically take this corn and put it in the ground and it'll grow again. It'll
grow again. It's called open pollinated corn. So there's no hybrid that you have to plant, or you don't have to make a hybrid to get this.
Which is really fascinating to me. And one of the questions I probably should get in, and maybe it's the time, I don't know if you've thought about it, but like we're always talking about, food storage for saving for, an EMP strike or whatever, you can't access food. Obviously you could take this and eat a lot of popcorn, but like if we, for whatever reason, we started having food shortages, I mean, if you had this corn on hand, I mean, you could at least plant corn.
Oh yeah,
and have that. However long. I don't know how long you'd be able to store it.
Sure.
Maybe that's something we can talk about in the future. But so, like, just as a for instance, for a mind exercise for me, do you have any idea how much corn I could grow if I just went and put that into a garden? Have you thought about that at any?
I could give you an idea.
I'm just thinking, like, if I could take that and then feed 10 families, or and I don't know what I would be able to do with it.
Yeah, you could easily, probably 20 times that at least.
One bag would 20
at least
times
do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's just really interesting because you think about storing in case stuff, and that seemed to me like it would be. So as far as inputs, if I were to do that, I'm not going to do it tomorrow. I'm not doing it next year even. But if I were to do that, what would I have to do? If I had just like an old field that has been a standard row crop, I mean, is there a process that you basically have to turn everything over for that to work, or would it work and just not be as clean and organic and whatever? So, ideally we'd want to filter out all the bad stuff over time. So let's talk about that. Because since we're kind of having this exercise, you had a farm. It was almost went bankrupt. You didn't end up selling. I don't think your family farm. So how many acres were you able to keep hold of, and how many do you have now? And let's kind of just talk through that with what you're doing with the land that you're working.
So as far as the land we're working, we had to sell pretty much everything we owned except for the family farm. Now, I only farm about 3 acres of the original family farm. That's where our headquarters is and everything. I've got a cousin that's farmed it his whole life, and he'll continue to farm it till he's in great shape, and he'll keep farming it. So, but we rent a lot of fields, and what we look for, it's kind of funny because the conventional farmers have no interest in it. We look for smaller fields. We prefer, at least an acre or acre and a half or bigger, and try to find a bunch in a given area. And our biggest field now is 20 acres, and we're pushing right about 100 acres now. Where like before, when I conventionally farmed, I was farming 1,700 acres.
Sure.
So we rent a lot. Where the thing is we're able to pay them way better once we get it certified organic. So what's kind of good is a lot of those fields haven't been planted in years because they're too small for the big farmers to deal with. So a lot of them we can go straight into organic right away. And then the others, it takes us 3 years of farming organically before we can get certified organic.
Okay, so you can start planting stuff and get a harvest, but you can't put the sticker on it.
Right.
And so it takes 3 years basically for them to say, okay, this has been now free of pesticides and herbicides, so now it can be certified organic. Okay. So one of the questions I have, and I'm sorry for jumping all over the place, but these are things I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about. So my family, my dad has a couple small farms. So I've often wondered, and I know I asked you this a long time ago, and I want to know how it's changed and evolved and what you're thinking. So, one of the overlapping themes that we have going on here, the coming AI revolution, everything that's happening, and we're going over a lot of that per episode about the potential for job loss, and Elon Musk is now saying that work will be optional potentially within 5 to 10 years. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for something to do, quote unquote, and I think if you're looking to have I would think like small groups of farms that could kind of go back to the old school ways would be a really interesting thing. But my question is, you're now up to almost 100 acres. What's the minimum amount of acres do you think would be needed if someone wanted to focus on an organic, whatever, I'm not even saying corn, whatever it is, the organic thing that you want to focus on? Is there a kind of a general average that you're looking at, or does it depend on the product?
It depends on the product. I will tell you, there is a specialty potato that we're growing for
I'm really interested.
You had me in potato.
For a local restaurant. We're going to test it, and they've already told me what they'd be willing to pay. But this is just to give you an idea if it works. Now we've not run.
You're still in the process of seeing if it's going to work.
We did do a test plot for them the year before last. It worked really well. The only thing was we still were not able to get that specialty potato. It was as close as we could get to it. Going with what they're willing to pay, and they're paying wholesale, that 1 acre will generate about $34,000 gross. Net, I don't have an answer for you, but it will be good because I don't know exactly on the costs of getting the seed potatoes. Getting them is not a problem. It's just the cost.
Well, and kind of what I think, and you know better than me. I know based on what I think my dad has told me over the years, but I mean, basically what he does is a share crop, right? So, the farmer does all the inputs, pays all the stuff, and he gets a cut per acre.
My family does that over
and I think
County
it's,
as well.
I want to say it's like 300 an acre, maybe two to 300 an acre. So, I mean, you just look at that number there, and that's really awesome. But again, I know you're very well potentially taking a lot more risk in the beginning to go through the process of rehabbing and seeing if it's going to work. And then, if you're doing it for a particular restaurant and something happens at the restaurant, or they don't want they don't want the potatoes anymore. So I mean, I know you've got probably a lot of contractual things that you need to deal with there, which is really interesting. But again, I don't really like the way we do crops anyway. I have a thing against all the one of my animals was killed as a kid because it got sprayed and it just woke up dead one day. So I'm a little sensitive to that for a lot of reasons, and also I have gut issues for my entire life, and I had asthma as a kid, and every time whenever the crops and they would come through and do things, I would my breathing would get bad and all that jazz. So I got all the things going on here because we're talking about how can we be healthy, and then what can we do with smaller farms. Let's get back to you and your where you are. You're about 100 acres now. Is that a happy spot for you? Are you in a spot where you need more for a particular thing, or kind of where are you in the balance of size?
We're trying to figure out which way to go right now. 100 acres with the specialty crops we're doing would be enough, and we could grow what we need for our livestock. Now, something I'm always asked, and you're probably wondering this, is it scalable?
That's the big question, is it not?
So that is. And the only way I feel it's scalable, which is kind of cool with what you're saying now, is if we could team up with other producers. I've been really focusing on building a brand and focusing on marketing, but we're also learning along the way. And I think what we could do is take our system then and go to these people that may have 2 or 3 acres and help them get started. The thing is with you,
more like a co-op.
Well, they
would kind of come under your umbrella.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And one of the problems is with a conventional setup where you're at the mercy of whoever's buying.
Sure. And it's unpredictable.
Yeah. And honestly, you could not even start up today and compete with a regular hog producer, or, with the big hog producers now. They make so little, it's sad.
So very similar to a standard farmer.
Yep, standard farmer. Yeah. Whereas what we do, we've continually are testing. We think we found a 2 heirloom breeds or heritage breeds, I guess you'd say, hogs that we can cross that seem to have excellent feed conversion ratio, a great fat content, flavor is just incredible. And what our thought is we would supply these smaller farmers with feeder pigs, or whether it be chickens or
like a feeder pig over here on this popcorn, man. I'm going to town.
He is put a picture of yourself. I think his I looked over a second ago and his face was in the bowl. Nah. He's got butter all over his face.
I do. I have to use one hand so that I can control everything with the other hand. It's getting a little buttery.
Travis is usually not this quiet. I'll just have you know.
No, I try not to be too loud with my crunching, but this is delicious.
Yes.
Good deal. But no, what our thought process is to help, and also we could do it set different agreements with different people, but that is who I think we're seeing more of what you're saying there is going to happen. And the problem is marketing. It is tough. And I feel like that's where I'm really focusing our farm operation right now, is to start building these markets. And it's actually, I can tell you right now, it's been almost too successful. We're running into supply issues now. It's not
a problem to have.
Supply meaning enough seed or enough.
Well, we're running popcorn. We're running out of that. We'll have we actually decided to hold back on advertising like we were. Wow. We'll have enough to, I think, get through the year, but we can't expand any further. Same with our pork. We're sold out. We actually had some more going to be processed 3 weeks ago. We're already sold out. And we haven't even picked it up yet. All of it from the...
Well, a friend of the podcast, David Walker, is a fanatical fan of yours. I mean, every time I see him, he just is like, "Oh my God, this is the best stuff I've ever had." And not too long ago, he wasn't eating meat or he wasn't eating pork. He wasn't eating any of it. Now he's like, he can't get enough of it.
Well, and that's what's interesting. You get so spoiled on it. Same with the grass-fed beef.
Oh, yeah.
I had always heard, it's like eating a tough old deer. It's not.
No.
And it's how
who was saying that?
Probably the people that were feedlotting the cows.
Exactly right.
So, and my wife is funny. Last night she got a deal on some steak, And so we ate it last night. And she goes, "This isn't very good." And I said, "It's not any of our. We didn't grow it." And she ended up not eating it all then.
Oh, wow.
Which my golden retriever was very happy.
Thanks, Dad.
So, but the flavor is totally different. And I'm sure if you ran the cows all day long, and we try to do more control grazing, and then to really build up, and then we'll, you kind of, they call it mob grazing, try to really work an area hard, like what would have happened with a buffalo coming through. And
The herd is there for a minute.
Yep.
They kind of clean it up,
Yep.
and then they're gone. They don't come back for maybe a year or
Yeah,
whatever.
could be a year, could be. It just depends on, a lot of it has to do with the weather too.
Oh, yeah,
Are
sure.
do you have a drought?
Where
or
are they getting
whatever?
pushed to?
And this last year was really hard on us on that. But anyway, that I'm talking around in circles.
That's what we do here. It's fine.
But no,
I'm still just eating popcorn, so it's okay. If you want any more, you better grab some because I'm gonna eat it all.
I got a whole bunch of it in the
right.
closet.
But yeah, it's the flavor's incredible on the stuff, and it is really selling way better than what we had projected. So my thought is we'd eventually like to, expand it national. Right now we can't fill the demand local. So
Well, I mean,
where can I buy it locally?
well, have you ever heard of Local Source?
I have. Yeah.
And it's Local Source is where we're selling a lot of.
so it's a centralized website that's not yours.
Right.
You
I didn't know if it was maybe Schnucks or something.
And it's basically an online grocery.
Okay.
And so
they drop ship it. You drop ship it.
What we do is every Thursday morning, the customers have to have their order completed for the week by Tuesday evening, and I can't remember what time it is. They take care of that. And then they send us they call it a pick list, and then we get everything together. And we're maintaining our inventory all the time because you don't want to oversell if you don't have.
So you only put kind of what's available, and then if you sell out, you sold out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other local farmers that do it too. It's such a
That's
great
a
company.
great system. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
What was that website again?
called Local Source.
Local Source.
.com maybe.
I can't. I wish
I'll
I could
look it
remember.
up.
Hang on, I've only got one non-greasy hand, but I'll try to
look
find
it
it.
up. Oh no, I'm glad that wasn't the water.
Oh no. Let's see here. Local Source.
Localsource.com.
Let's see if I.
And let me see if I'll just see if I can pull up Pop Yonkers. For some reason, that doesn't look right.
I'm seeing.
This is weekly newspaper.
Localfoodmarketplace.com. Is that it?
That might be it.
Yeah, we want to get this. We want to get this right. That way.
I should know. We say Local Source, and
You said you were branding, Brandon.
I know. Yeah,
I'm looking for a brand here. Damn it. Pop.
is it on there? If you go popcorn once you're in the website,
Well, hang on.
I'm looking here.
I'm gonna look too.
Local food marketplace. No, it's not on Facebook, is it?
Pop Yonkers Farmstead. Okay, yeah. So it is evansville.localfoodmarketplace.com.
Local. So that was it. Food marketplace.
Yeah, I apologize. I should know that. I will tell you.
You weren't coming anywhere important. It's okay. It's just our podcast.
But no, the something I will say about Local Source is, for us, I don't think we would have survived those first few years starting out with specialty crops. They have helped us so much get our name out there.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull.
Oh, yeah, hang on. I'll go up to your.
So you'll see. You can't.
There you go.
You can't see that, but it's the URL is, well, if you just go to
Evansville.local. Shoot, I just had it.
does the Pop Yonkers website go back to this page, or does it go to somewhere else?
Go somewhere else.
Oh, this is directly to your page. This is where they can find a little bit. You have
I like chicken.
You have like a subscribe. Oh, there you go, the mailing list. So if you since I've got it up, let's go ahead and plug it. You can go to the Pop Yonkers website, look up popyonkers.com, and sign up for the mailing list. That way, I'm sure you probably let people know
popcorn
what's available, maybe, or where to find it or whatever. This looks like at least one of your kids here.
Grandkid.
The one on the left is my son Andrew, and then Seth is his friend at the right. Those are those chickens right there are what we've gone with. We had. I'm sorry, I was walking away.
You got to get the mic up there.
Yeah, but those are the same type of chickens that pretty much everybody's raising now. They're called Cornish cross.
When you say everybody, you mean people that have chickens in their yard?
Yeah, or no, meat chicken.
Oh, they
people.
are
Yeah,
processing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I wanted to get away from them and raise what was called a. Trying to think here, they're in the Rhode Island Red family, and it's what my dad raised on the farm.
More of a unique looking
yeah,
chicken.
and
I think my sister had some of those.
so we decided to raise those last year, and all I can say, it was when we got done with them, it was like eating chicken flavored dental floss.
Oh, okay.
They were so tough, and we ended up having to grind them at a USDA facility. So to be able to do how we're moving them and everything, we pretty much have gone.
So let's circle back. You've got 100 acres. Does that 100 acres include the animals that you're moving around and everything? So it's you know, you do the regenerative farming aspect of it is you have a crop, you cut the crop, and then you put an assortment of animals in them. Oh, you do a cover crop right after the crop before you do.
There's a little bit more that goes into it. So we're taking a soil sample
every year, or just as you get until you get it right.
Until we get it right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll still do it every few years again. I probably get a little carried away with it.
I know you've always been big on those samples.
Yeah. So so basically, based on that soil sample, we'll say, it would help if we need to increase the phosphate level. So we'll try to run more chickens on it. We don't have enough livestock to cover everything. One thing we do also, cover crops or multi-species cover crops are so critical to being able to raise your crops. And these multi-species cover crops help release some of the trace minerals and stuff that those plants really need. And you can increase nitrogen by planting legumes. There's just so many different things you can do. But doing I talked to a gentleman last night, and his cover crops on his organic farm, I think it's 14 different species of plants he puts in there before he puts in his crop the next year. So
again, a lot of people on here aren't farmers, so we're probably talking right over the top of some people's heads. So you'll have a crop, a standard crop. Let's say it's corn. You'll harvest that, and then you put in the cover crop, which if you're driving down the road and you look out to a field that's been harvested, you'll see stuff growing up, and sometimes it's just weeds. But if it's someone that's doing cover crops, it looks more uniform. It looks like you're planting grass or something, probably. And then how long do you what's the cover crop do for how long, and then what do you do with it after that?
So there's different things you do based on the soil samples and what you're planting. So sometimes you're planting a cover crop that is just going to basically frost kill. So it won't go all the way into spring, but it'll have enough biomass on top that it'll keep it from washing out. The goal is to always keep basically we say skin on the on the soil.
Like a no-till is what
we just always
most
try to keep something on it all the time. That being said, there is times where we have to go in and work ground. For example, we had Johnson grass that was a big issue this year. We worked it.
So Johnson grass goes down deeper, so you actually have to
throws out rhizomes. So
you have to get down there and get it.
So we cultivate it, and those rhizomes, you're trying to get them to the top. We had to actually moldboard plow it to turn those rhizomes up. And then we cultivated it, and then we literally went out in the fields, and I hired some helpers, and we literally went out and dug the whole root up and everything, and then threw it on top, and then it dries up and it kills it.
Wow.
But
very labor intensive.
Very labor intensive. But
you only have to do that once.
Right. If you do it right,
When you get smaller, sometimes you might get a little outcropping. You got to go out and fix little patch it, get a patch of it next year.
Exactly. You'll still have to do some cleanup.
Yeah.
But also we're looking at, on that is, I don't know if you ever heard of this, as a weed zapper. And basically electrocutes the weeds that go above the plant. So
I've heard of watching bug zappers was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
That was a lot of
If you ever
excitement.
get
I was like, yes, that was a fat skeeter. Man, that was a big boy.
So if you ever get a chance, Google search videos of weed zappers. You won't believe. At nighttime, it's
I know what you do
incredible.
at night, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You're really exciting, Brandon.
It's a light show.
yeah. It is.
His wife is like, Brandon's exciting. We're watching Weed Zapper.
That's right.
Put some EDM music to it. Like,
There you go. That's right.
We probably could make it really entertaining. Like
Yeah, that's
that.
right.
After I'm done with the popcorn, I can make it entertaining. I'm almost to the
He's
bottom.
out of commission.
Don't talk to me.
You're gonna have to dial in another call to Sean.
We need to require that every guest bring food.
There you go. Oh, that's something too. I was telling you about where we had to plow that field. So as soon as we could, we literally spread on that field. We did a rye even before the crops were harvested, and so we've harvested the beans now. But now it looks like a yard. In fact, some of it started to come up when we were harvesting, so we cut it just perfect. It looks like this huge yard.
Wow.
It's beautiful now.
That's cool. And so I guess the balance and how you scale is it sounds like you're running out of as much meat as you can, as much livestock and stuff as you can grow. You're going through it. So I mean, is your scaling partially? I know you have to look at the financials and all that stuff and determine what's the best path for who your clients are and what they're needing and all that stuff. So
This is literally finger licking good, by the way.
Nah. So I understand there's like you're having to gauge what your clients need with what you're going to buy next. It sounds to me like, and it would be really shocking. I don't know that you can create. Could you do too much livestock? I mean, I don't, like at this point.
Yes,
you can.
Well, I mean, from a standpoint of what our land could handle.
Yes.
We could overgraze it.
Yeah,
and
for sure. But I mean, just from what you think you could sell, probably not.
Probably not.
Okay. So there definitely is room for you to grow there.
Oh, yeah.
And some of that having to do with sending things out to local restaurants and things like that.
Yep.
So part of your business is he and I getting in touch with you, going to local source or whatever, buying bacon, buying whatever it is, organic beef,
Bacon.
grass finished, grass fed, all that good jazz. So again, I know the people that we're going to reel this podcast. So I want to make sure that we kind of hit on the things that are hot buttons or keywords that we can. I don't want to derail the conversation so much because I've got so many interesting things that you can tell us about what you're doing. I want to make sure that I get some good clips for you to use that's helpful for you. So what do you feel right now? We're in the wintertime, so everything's frozen. So but you still have animals, right? So you've harvested probably enough hay or feed to feed your animals over the winter. Part of that's your 100 acres as well, or do you? Okay. So
now that being said, too, we do bring some in right now. There's some of we do a non-soy feed that we have to, like hogs have to have a grain along with pasture. We're moving them once a week to new pasture, kind of intensely graze them too. And then, but we do have to bring in some other grain to go with the feed. Yeah. And then the straw and stuff like that's not a problem, but feed we do have to bring in.
Yeah. So I imagine because it takes you a few years to get the certified organic, these particular things. I know a lot of landowners will enter into contracts with farmers, and it really is kind of a year to year. Like either it works or it doesn't. I like you, you like me, or we don't like each other at all, and then you move on. I imagine with this, you probably have to have a little bit more of a relationship and an understanding that it's a process that we have to get through, and so there's got to be a little bit of patience,
definitely
in the beginning until it's going to be worth X amount.
Yep.
And then it's going to be worth X amount more, assuming nothing catastrophic happens.
Yeah. That being said, though, this year on some of our transition ground, we were able to pay our landlords more than what they were getting on their conventional ground. We've got some landlords that they still think we're a little bit
Well, yeah,
out
it's,
there.
it's unknown. Yeah,
And,
it's an unknown quantity.
But we were able to pay them more, and not a huge amount more, but they made, it varies on the farm, but anywhere from $15 to $25 more an acre. We do a bonus program. We've got this formula we use, and when we make money, we do normally how most of our landlords want to do it. We did pick up one different one this year. They want a guaranteed amount of money, a cash rent. But even if they ask for cash rent, we go ahead and do that. But we go ahead and give them a bonus.
Pay them more.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the way I feel about it, if we've had a good year, why not share it with them?
Well, and if the land is good land and you're turning it into better land and you know where it's going, there is some predictability to that. And so what most people probably don't understand, and I do only because I nerd out on some of this stuff, is the part of the regenerative farming process, because we didn't really dig into that yet, is the soil goes from a conventional crop that basically destroys the soil. It doesn't hold water well. It's not a thick soil. There's a lot of runoff. There's loses minerals. It loses all that nutrients and all the things that are built into soil. Whereas as you are improving the soil and doing this regenerative, why don't you talk about a little bit about how, kind of where a field might start when you get it coming from a conventional farm to what you might see year 1, 2, 3, because I know you are a soil sample. You already said you went a little bit overboard, but I mean, I know you're probably trying to nerd out. You went to Purdue, right? And so you're trying to nerd out on.
We'll hold that against you.
What are we doing? I got some IU clips, by the way, for later if we want to watch them.
Who does?
I could pull the Purdue clip from the last game, but you're not big into sports anyway. So tell us a little bit about the soil from the regenerative perspective, and what anybody that has a small farm or they're considering. Like my dad, I would love to talk him into going away from the standard crop to a regenerative, because one of the main reasons is he built an 1.5 acre lake, kind of like right in the middle of, the property, but kind of he built it kind of, and all the stuff from the farm kind of drains into the lake, and I'm like, I don't really want to be eating those fish. Thank you very much. So what if we could turn that into a regenerative thing, and anything that's draining into there is clean and filtered, and it's good for the fish. It's good for anybody eating the fish. It's just overall a better thing. That was a really long thing to say. Tell us about the soil. If somebody's interested in
dirt,
Brandon's looking for another piece. Here's what we saw last year. Tell us a little bit about the progression of when you come in, what the soil looks like, what you do to it, and why is that important? Why is that important?
Sure.
For not just the food, but for the climate and for all those things.
So a couple things you hit, which I think is a really big thing, is the runoff. The runoff is just incredible that ends up in our waters. I even got to go on a field trip with my daughter, and we tested the nitrate level in the Ohio River here. It's unbelievable. It's sickening, and all this is runoff from all the conventional farms. We by doing the cover crops, we don't add all the nitrogen in. If we do anything, it's done in furrow right there with the plant. But we try to build that up. The things you want to build up are organic matter, and organic matter holds water even during very dry times. And where I learned that too, and I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but we used to farm a bunch of coal mine ground, and we literally raised crops and on this one piece of ground that was never reclaimed. They just graded it off. It was shale and sandstone, but it was done in the 50s, and it just grew up, but there was a lot of lespedeza growing on it, stuff that really builds nitrogen and builds the soil. We took a soil sample on it, and shale in this area is basically it's clay and trace minerals and organic matter that was compressed many at least thousands of years ago.
Sure. Maybe millions.
Yeah. So when it's brought back to the surface, it's left there, and it breaks down and basically becomes soil again. But anyway,
like soil samples the word of the day. And,
Yeah.
And like you need like a lab coat when you're walking around with your soil samples.
there you go.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
But anyway,
I'm here for dumbness.
So most of the farms around here have, I'm gonna say, 1% organic matter. That coal mine had 5.5% organic matter on a place that was not even reclaimed because it hadn't been abused all those years, and allowed all that to run off. Had been kept there.
Wow.
So our objective on this ground is, one, to improve the quality of the soil for landowner, because that's gonna, if that's a higher producing piece of ground, that increases the value for the landowner. On top of that, by doing this, once we get things flowing, they're going to make more money. And in fact, that's one thing and I have nothing against conventional farmers. I did it my whole life, so don't.
And your family, and part of your family still does.
Still does, yeah.
I have a lot of good friends that are farmers, and they do it
so
that way. I would say they're kind of stuck in the system.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
So I just was to the point I was going to lose everything, so I had nothing to lose.
Well,
so.
we badmouth schools a lot in the education system, but we love our teachers, and we don't. I mean, it has nothing to do with the system that you're trapped in.
Right.
I mean, that's really kind of has been out of our control. But I mean, the thing about the regenerative, I think it's kind of the decentralized framework that we talk about a lot. Fighting tyranny on all fronts is decentralizing from the standard practice of what the big companies dictate everything, and it just kind of trickles down to you, and you get your margins get smaller and smaller every year, and the soil gets worse and worse every year. I've heard stories from RFK and also from land experts that say if we continue with standard practice planting and harvesting, we've got less than 60 years of soil that can actually produce crops.
I believe that.
Let's make sure to take some soil samples to back that up.
We're gonna have to derail him at some point. I'm gonna tell you, it's
the word of the day, man. Soil samples.
Anyway,
but yeah, that's another thing you'll notice on these fields where we've had a couple years under our belt now, is you don't see the runoff like you did before. The water coming off of it. You see less water coming off of it. And I have one field in particular this year that normally would not do well in a drought, and we still end up getting a decent yield out of it. I couldn't believe there was.
And how long have you been working that field?
That field is 3 years.
Okay, so I mean that's another important piece. Like the ground that you're working and improving becomes more and more and more drought tolerant. Like you can get a much less amount of rain. If the rain doesn't run off and go into the creek, into the river,
it just stays there.
It stays in the soil, basically holding holding in that. What's that called? It's
topsoil.
The topsoil. I thought there was a more technical term, but topsoil. So that's what another thing I think that people need to understand is like regenerative ends up getting you back to, in case the climate does go crazy for a few years, which. We have climate change, right? Because the climate is always changing, and you can't really control it. So, it's better to have a soil that is resistant to any problems. And that's, so anyway, I don't know if I cut you off there, but so the soil.
Topsoil is the O horizon, and the organic layer is also, I don't know what you were searching for, but those were other terms for the topsoil.
Yeah, so I mean, there's really so many different things and directions that we can go. I have I don't know if I really want to watch this full clip. There's a video that I found really intriguing, and it's a 12-minute deal, and I don't want to watch the whole thing all at once, but we might break it into little clips because I think as we're kind of dancing around, and I'm sorry being a terrible moderator, I'm interested in certain things, and I know I'll bounce around without telling the perfect story. But we're going to get clips and reels, and we're going to it's going to make sense. So
Chad the Pinball Schmidt.
Before we move on, let's watch a little bit of the beginning of this clip, and I think I've got a. We'll go for a few minutes here.
Point in human history. Yet it's making us sicker, and it's destroying the very land we depend on to survive. 99% of animal agriculture today is raised on factory farms. Crowded, unnatural systems that pollute the land, water, and air. The world's topsoil is vanishing in front of our eyes, and so is the nutrition in our food. But there is another way, a system that rebuilds the soil, brings animals back into harmony with the land, and produces food that actually nourishes. It's called regenerative agriculture. It's not just the future of farming, it's our only hope of survival. In this video, you'll learn how modern farming practices have stripped our food and soil of life, and how regenerative agriculture offers a way to restore both. You'll see why animals are essential to healthy ecosystems, how soil health impacts human health, and what it will actually take to rebuild a food system that sustains us all. The last 70 years have witnessed a rapid expansion of the global population, and if we didn't want the world to starve, farming had to come up with a solution. That solution was scale. Large farms, synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, heavy machinery, and monoculture crops. But the problem is, this scale comes with a serious sacrifice. The food we're eating today isn't made to be as healthy and as nutritious as possible. It was designed to be grown as cheaply and efficiently as possible. And the environment, it was an afterthought. So what does our modern food system look like today? And what does that mean for you? For most of human history, our lives were tied to the land, planting, growing, and harvesting our own food. Today, that has changed. As our society industrialized, so did our food production. Small farms were replaced with large multinational corporations controlling thousands of acres at a time. Farms growing a wide diversity of crops and animals were replaced with endless fields of monocrops, mile after mile of corn and soy and wheat. Meanwhile, the majority of humans moved to cities, working jobs in an ever-expanding economy with no connection to how their food was grown. So what happened? The quality and nutrition of our food has declined rapidly. Today's fruits and vegetables aren't what they used to be. Since 1950, they've lost up to 90% of their nutrients in some cases. But why would a carrot be any less nutritious than one from 70 years ago?
So that was the first clip. Again, I think this is just kind of will tie everything. It'll allow us to reel in my crazy going into different directions and just say, here's the story of where we are with farming. And then coming back to the story of where you're trying to take the local community, and why I find this so really super relevant is, again, part of it is the decentralized aspect of it. Part of it is I don't know really which food I can trust if I go to any local supermarket. I don't know what chemicals have been sprayed on. We all know it's not probably natural to eat a raspberry in December. Where did that come from? What did they have to do to it? But yet my kid loves raspberries, and we were told eat raspberries, and that's what we're going to do. Sure. So, part of this is an education for everyone, but it's also reiterating why we are where we are. Mm-hmm. So anytime you want to, I'm going to share little clips of things.
I missed the raspberry boat, apparently. I didn't know you were supposed to. Is that like just some major fruit to eat?
No, just my kid likes eating fruit.
Okay.
He loves eating.
I didn't get the memo on raspberries, apparently.
He loves eating fruit every day. So, if it's bananas or, I try to buy organic where I can. You can get decent organic bananas now, but I think they have to probably come from South America.
Probably.
So they probably were picked super ripe. And so they're on a ship container for however long and all that stuff. And we don't know if we can trust the organic part of it. That's the other part that I'm fully aware of. But so anyway, I don't know if you have a comment on that first clip.
Well, something I'd like to add on that clip, and I'm going to go back to, we were talking about the health issues we had in our family. So my daughter was the first one to really monitor everything she eats, and not.
How old is your daughter, by the way?
She now is 28.
28?
And married a few years ago?
Yeah, a few years ago. Lives in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, Texas.
And she actually is, I can't remember what her degree is. I mean, it's in nutrition.
Come on, Dad.
But I can't remember what it's called. So, but anyway, she was the first in our family to really go to the organic, watching all the food she's eating.
Was she doing that before she got sick?
No.
Okay, so her condition basically, I'm going all in trying to fix this thing.
Yeah.
God love her. That's fantastic.
So
that's awesome.
Told her the rest of her life she'd be on these shots. And then all of a sudden she had this.
This is where we need Dr. Roy in here. Anyway,
yeah, and he could probably explain this because I don't know.
Yeah.
My daughter, she'd be good to explain it.
Yeah.
But anyway, her muscles started just disintegrating where she was
atrophy or whatever.
Yeah. And it was was awful. And she said, I'm done. I'm not doing any more medication. And I think I'm telling you right on the date, but it's between 6 and 7 years since she's had a MS flare-up. She had, I believe it was 7 lesions on her brain. Later, she lost feeling in her ankles. She lost her ability to taste. She lost her feeling.
That's no good. This popcorn is too delicious.
Did she get those back?
Got them all back. Her vision is
that's good.
2020 has no more.
Oh, vision
flare-up.
came back. Good.
So just diet.
That's all she's done is diet. I can't say, well, that's definitely what it is, but sure seems to.
We do a lot of anecdotal stuff here,
Yeah.
Brandon. And there's a book that I read a long time ago because I was on a local MS board.
I remember that.
For quite a few years. And it always kind of bugged me about what, it was always a pharmaceutical company that was coming in trying to sell the next drug. And I love the women and the gentlemen that were on the board and that were affected by MS, but I was always like, there's got to be something more. So I started reading books and there was a doctor, and I don't remember her name just offhand. It'll probably come to me whenever we're talking about something else. She was basically a doctor in another field, became debilitated by MS in a wheelchair. They were basically telling her she was going to die. And she's like, I'm a doctor. I'm going to go head deep into this. If I die, I'm going out learning everything I can know. So basically she created this protocol, and it's diet and diet only. And she was able to basically get herself out of the wheelchair, and she's doing great again today. I only say this to say it's anecdotal evidence. What you just shared, your daughter's story. It's not anecdotal evidence. The pharmaceutical companies want us to believe it's anecdotal evidence, and they will not do the studies because there's no money in proving that food can solve the problem that pharmaceutical companies want to solve.
Sure.
So I said what I said. Continue on.
Yeah, and another case in point. Oh no, my wife did have to have surgery. Had to have a couple surgeries, and eventually a full hysterectomy because of the masses. They were non-cancerous, but still, we don't know where they were. Where they were coming from. And then with my kidney failure, it's kind of interesting. I had my EGFR was dropping really quick, and things were not looking good. And trying to think, nephrologist told me, said that probably within 6 weeks I will have moved into stage 3
kidney failure.
Kidney failure, yeah. And so I actually started making plans. I was like,
so you're gonna have to go and do the annual. Don't you have to do like regular dialysis and
on
stuff?
Stage 4 you would.
Yeah.
So I was
You're heading that way pretty quick.
And then you'd be, once you're in stage 4, then I think that's when I may be a little bit off on this, but sometime through that period, then they put you on a list for kidney replacement.
Okay.
Or what they call it? Transplant
list.
Yeah, there we go. And so anyway, I just said, well, I'm probably not going to be around long. And I actually even contacted an auctioneer and said, I don't want to leave my wife with all this stuff. And started making plans just to get rid of all of it. Now, she probably wishes
that you had gone through with it.
Yeah. So
I hear that a lot from the wives.
Yeah.
At that time, you were worth more dead than alive, for sure.
So
things are turning around, I think, Brandon.
That's right.
I think they're turning around.
So my daughter, who had MS, she called me and she goes, let me put you on a diet. I said, it's not going to do any good because
you know better.
Yeah, well, the doctor
knows better.
Yeah, and he told me.
He said, the doctor said.
Yeah. So anyway, she goes, what do you got to lose? And I said, fine, I'll do it. So she puts me on this diet. She tells me I can't. She doesn't want me drinking Cokes all the time.
Oh, how dare she?
Wants me to get away from anything.
You couldn't eat bread either, I bet, probably.
Actually, I could.
Bread.
Oh, yeah?
Good bread.
Yeah, good bread.
It had to be good
sourdough.
bread. It had to be organic bread.
Yeah, it was. Everything had to be organic.
Got rid of sugar, a lot
and
of
now
sugar.
Keep in mind, at this point, when she's telling me this, I am still not convinced that organic
is the way to go.
is the way to go. I mean, we're arguing the whole time.
Dr. Terry Walls, by the way.
Yes.
Terry
thank you.
Walls
Yeah,
is
it's the Walls protocol.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
anyway,
thank
continue.
You.
Sorry.
Thank you very, very much.
Yep.
So anyway, she does have me increase my water intake, and I think it's about 70 ounces a day. And I don't even remember what I was drinking, but I replaced more of my water. I was drinking water, but I did away with
You were
the
drinking
sodas.
too many sodas.
Yeah. So I I cut them out altogether. Now she told me, she goes, if you want to have a cheat day or something, that's fine. But so I cut back on that. And the main thing was she just really wanted me to focus on not having anything that wasn't organic.
Processed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No processed.
Yeah,
Processed.
no processed or organic.
Process will kill you.
If it came in a bag or in a can,
Yep.
if it eats the rust off a bumper,
Hey, you know
That's
that.
cool.
probably shouldn't.
That's
drink
cool.
Did I tell you that story?
Well, I've heard that.
Oh,
many
okay.
times.
No,
But
I did.
I've used Coca-Cola as a rust remover.
I think
before.
you did
Like,
tell me that you
I
actually
spilled
used-
some gramoxone on the back of my truck. That's a
Some what?
paraquat. You probably heard of that. There's
It's a-
lawsuits going on all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time on
It's
that.
a major.
Yeah, it leads to. I think they believe it leads to.
Is it a bud killer or weed killer?
What's it in?
It's a weed killer.
weed killer?
Oh, weed killer.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like a super intense version of the
It's a
stuff you go buy. at
defoliant-
like
Lowe's.
my ortho that I'm putting around my house or something. Yeah.
So farmers can get it in big vats.
Yeah,
okay.
And you need about this much to kill a whole lot, whereas you got to go, buy a weed killer, and you got to spray like a whole
yeah, mine's concentrate
thing
or
on your yard.
water
You can't
down or
get it. You
whatever.
can't get it like that anymore.
Yeah, and it's fast. In fact, I'm getting off the subject, but I sprayed our backyard with it one time, and my uncle gave me some, the one that died of the weird cancer, and
Probably from this
And
stuff.
within an hour, it was dead.
Oh my god!
But I'd spilled some on my bumper of my truck, and the chrome lifted off.
The chrome.
The chrome? You dechromed it? Mm-hmm.
So
Dang.
so Coke will just take rust off of the chrome.
Yeah.
The paraquat will take the
chrome
rust
off
and
the chrome off the metal.
So it solves both problems. If you don't
Yeah.
like chrome, you can take it right off.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know how good the chrome was, but it did lift it off.
I would not recommend paraquat.
Yeah, don't
Anyway.
don't touch that.
Anyway,
with your bare hand.
Moving on now.
So anyway,
So
to
your
get
so
on
your
my-
daughter
So she asked
mommed-
me.
you on a
she
diet.
mommed you,
Put me on a diet.
and
Yeah.
she mommed you
Yep.
proper.
And you
Yep.
can't even tell us what her degree is.
I know.
Jeez, Dad.
So anyway,
She
my-
saved
She's
your life.
dietary. She's a dietitian
Yep.
of some at some.
Oh,
level.
is it okay?
yeah,
Dietary.
dietitian. Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So anyway, thank you.
Missy, I've got him under control
you
now.
go.
We're good.
So anyway, the 6 weeks comes up. I go in for my tests. I'm so sure it's bad.
So wait. How long had you been the
On this
changed
diet?
diet?
Yeah. So yeah.
before the
6 weeks.
Okay.
So the whole 6 weeks you were on the new
Yeah.
diet.
So you're
Okay.
about ready to go from. Let's get. Well, hang on. Let's start. I'm going to tee this up. You were talking to a doctor. Doctor said your kidneys are failing. You're soon from going from one stage to the next stage where you're potentially going to do
Bad.
dialysis and get on the kidney replacement. That was. You probably don't remember the date, but just give me the timeline maybe of you were told. Your daughter comes to
and
you.
then Missy said, "Listen, Dad."
Missy comes to you soon thereafter after you gave her the bad news. She said, "Listen, this is what you're going to do."
Yep.
Okay. So then
So 6 weeks. So 6 weeks later.
6 weeks, I'm doing what she says to do.
All right. Cool.
I will tell you, she did have me, and not major exercise. She said, I want you to make sure every day you walk at least 2 miles a day. So, which is easy. That wasn't a big
yeah,
deal.
you're moving around. You don't sit around a lot.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
So a lot of times I usually made it 4 miles a day.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I get my test done. When I had gone in there the last time, my EGFR was at 61% or 61, and I think 59 is stage 3.
So low is bad.
Yeah, low's bad on that.
Okay.
And then my creatine level was high too, and I can't remember what that was. So anyway, I go in there, get my test, and I was just waiting for him to call me back and tell me I'd moved into stage 3. And she goes, "Well, your EGFR is now at 69." I'm like, "No, that can't be right." I said, "Are you sure it's mine?" And
Do you have the right guy?
yeah,
You realize I have to go talk to my daughter about
Yeah.
this.
Hang on,
if I have to
soil
tell her
sample.
she's right.
yeah.
Soil sample.
We need to take a soil sample here,
Yeah.
lady, and see what's going on.
So I do my next 6 weeks. It moves up to 74.
Nice.
And then the next 6 weeks, it was at 85.
So Missy doesn't hold over your head that she saved your life, right?
No, but I give her all the credit.
Yeah.
And
They're good. They're
so,
good.
and it kind of leveled out for a while. And then the last time I was checked, it was at 94.
Dang.
And somebody in my age range, normal is 90 to 100.
What do you think you cut out that really made the difference? Sodas? Or
I
is
just
there
didn't
other
drink
stuff?
them. I only drank one soda a day before
Processed
that.
food.
let me back up. Usually just 1 soda a day. Sometimes I drink 2 sodas a day, but very
That's
seldom.
like probably the average American probably drinks 2 to 4 a day or
Yeah.
something. So I mean,
So I
that's not
wouldn't
that far.
No.
But I mean, so just processed.
I think
like
the processed
stuff out of a box,
food-
stuff out of a can, no longer.
Yeah, there was none of that.
Any box
Okay.
or bag that you get, if you look at the carbohydrates, the added sugar
Oh yeah.
is insane.
Oh, I know. I'm
and it's
curious
not. It's not even sweet stuff. It doesn't have to taste like a soda. It's like it's added. It's added. Next time you do that, please put the camera on.
That's what
yourself.
you did.
No, well, I didn't. Whatever.
So but
So,
mainly,
yeah, to answer your question, the main 2 things was going with unprocessed food and everything organic. And
But what do you think made them was like bread or just anything major?
Well,
Or you just think
our bread is
overall?
crap.
Our bread is
Yeah.
absolute garbage. That's
yeah,
why I'm
and
asking if
she
that
didn't
was
have me
one.
cut it out, but I just didn't eat that much.
Yeah.
But when I went, like, they were telling me I need to really cut back on meat, and she didn't have me cut back on meat. She said, just be reasonable on it, and she goes, don't go eat a 16-ounce steak every day. But she said, you can-
Porterhouse.
Yeah. So,
Unless you grew it and cut
Right,
it. yourself.
right,
You can
but
totally-
no.
What's that steak John Candy ate? And
on Great Outdoors.
on the Great Outdoors, man.
The old 96.
You got to
Oh,
eat the
nice.
gristle. You got to eat the gristle too. Oh man. Anyway,
So anyway, that's mainly, I think those 2 things were the main things. Is
So 6 weeks you had 6 weeks is when you went back to the doctor,
I'm the derailer, by the way. Sorry about that.
No.
and you went back. You came up rather than going down. Mm-hmm. How long till you went to the doctor again?
6 weeks. They
So
kept
it was
doing
you were
every
on 6. You were on 6 weeks. So that was how many? How long ago?
Well, it was probably a total, I'm going to say close to 9 to 10 months when it finally got, it slowed up, then was in that.
so within a year
94
you righted the
Yeah.
ship. Within a year you righted the ship.
Yeah.
Where you felt like I don't need to go get you.
Yep.
They didn't want to see you anymore until symptom or
Yeah, and they test, I get just do my physical every year I just had it about a month ago and I'm still doing great.
me and Dr. Roy
awesome.
don't get into this a lot, but early on in our podcasting, I was always like, what's the root cause of what's going on? And it always did come back to diet. That's where we talked about the doctor who cured her own MS. We talked about all that stuff on previous podcasts. And it really,
I say Wales?
no,
Walls. Terry Walls.
WAHL S.
S. Yep. WAHL.
But I really do believe proper food can cure almost anything. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling anybody to stop anything. But what I'm saying is, if you feel terrible or if you're diagnosed with something, if you start, like, whatever the doctor's going to tell you, the doctor's going to tell you. And what I would say is go on something similar to what your daughter would say. They can contact Missy. You can provide that contact information if you want.
Call Missy your dietitian.
You can also, buy a book like the Walls Protocol. It's basically just cleaning all the crap out of your diet, getting rid of anything. And this is the Pop Junker popcorn is in a bag, but it is an organic.
And it's terrible. So if you have a half-eaten
popcorn.
bag, send it my way.
But
no, I'm just kidding. It's not terrible.
But
It's
at
delicious.
the end of the day, if you get it in a box, it's never been alive on the planet. It's never grown out of the ground. It's probably just something you should avoid.
Right.
See, you're saying if it lasts like 2 years before I open it,
Unless
it's not
you,
good.
unless you just want to go to the hospital and you want to be a part of the system.
So why do we poison ourselves? Why?
Well, that's part of this video.
Is it an economics thing?
It is totally.
It is.
It's totally an economic. It comes back to we come back to Bitcoin, and we've got a Bitcoin story today. We can tell it comes back to fiat currency. So it comes back to we had to squeeze more and more money out of less and less of what we actually. Farmers are in a fiat system.
Mm-hmm.
Our dollars are devaluating. Their profit margins are shrinking. Everything is coming to. We have to create more to get less nutrition. So it's quantity versus quality.
Yeah.
And we started down the road because we needed to make more money. The capitalist part of it.
But capitalism's not a bad thing.
Well, it wasn't capitalism though. It was crony capitalism, meaning the government got into bed with USDA and the FDA, and the banks were funding all this. The banks are in line with the insurance companies. They're all it's all about money. It really all comes back to the money.
Brandon, I got a quick question. Did you ever get stipend to just get rid of crop? I've heard of farmers having so much crop and to keep the supply and demand where they wanted it to be. They just kind of were like, well, just don't even.
They pay you not to crop.
pay you not to-
They pay
Yeah.
That's called
Yeah.
what's it called?
It's called CRP.
Yeah, crop reduction program.
Yeah.
So that's a government program.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that for you? Just out of
I
curiosity.
had the opposite. So
The opposite.
I bought a piece of farmland, and it was in CRP, and I went and
So they were whoever owned that land.
Yeah,
they were
they had
saying,
it.
"Here, don't
Yeah.
farm it.
Yeah.
Here's some money."
So I just went and asked. I said, "How much longer is this going to or is this under the CRP program?" And they said 1 year. So I bought it and I put it back into production.
Wow.
So
Okay, yeah.
that is to me is just a joke.
Well,
Yeah, why?
so
People are going hungry, and we're sitting here like,
Yeah.
"Here, don't
I,
farm it."
I probably won't. I'll probably push back on you a little bit here.
For the livestock or wildlife.
Well, no, depending on when you bought it, and if you were a conventional farmer at that time, you were actually not doing the soil.
No,
and
you're
everything
right.
any better.
You're right. You
That's-
got me there.
That's where I'm.
And
That's where I'm pushing
yeah.
back on you. So if you could have got that land and then gone right to regenerative, that would have you could have stepped right into it.
could have.
You would. That
it
would
would
have been
perfect.
So somebody coming off of us. This is another thing we could talk about. Somebody that's in a current CRP program. And people do CRP programs for a lot of reasons. A lot of people would do a CRP program for a reason like I would. I don't like the crap running into the lake. I don't like the idea of pesticides and herbicides everywhere. I want the quail to come back on my property. I want all these deer to come back. I want all these different things to happen. And so it's kind of a natural handoff to you, except for I would imagine deer and are probably not your best friend in a lot of instances. So I know you would want to manage your wildlife corridors and make sure that you're keeping the animals are going to take some of your food.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to do that.
is.
That's the way it's always been. It's the way
Damn
it's
animals.
Yeah.
Damnals.
And you love deer hunting. You love deer. I mean, it's organic.
It's a trade-off.
It's organic meat. So yeah.
So, but here's something I will tell you. And my dad, who is not even a proponent of organic,
Still not yet.
Still not after your
He
whole
is
situation.
a
I'm
stubborn.
working on- no, my stepmom
I need to
has,
talk to
but-
Gene. He's
Damn it,
stubborn.
Dad.
He's stubborn.
Gene.
but he has.
Gene's awesome, but he's stubborn.
He did tell me that he will agree with me on one thing. So I
One
put
thing.
out organic soybeans out this year. It was supposed to go actually into a food grade blue corn that was going to be used for tortillas, but because of the rains,
tortillas.
we couldn't get it planted. So it got so late in the year, so my only choice was soybeans. So the farmer next to me is a conventional farmer. When I say next to me, he's it's maybe a 16th of a mile. It's over in the New Harmony area, so the fields are kind of spread out. So the deer don't go to his field. They keep coming to my field. And one small field I had, they literally ate even the stems. It was, oh my God. I mean, it was gone. And they didn't
Bambi,
even touch
damn it.
his. But my dad even said that he said, I'll admit it, that the deer know which
They know
fields
what's
are.
good.
There you go.
They know what's GMO and what's not.
I imagine
What's better for him?
yeah.
Well, I imagine the quail are really liking you too.
They are.
Potentially the rabbits. And
Yep.
I don't.
And I'll tell
Damn
you, that's
squirrels,
something else my wife and I are looking into is basically going back to, like when I was a kid, I know exactly what you're talking. But we had
Go out and
fence
shoot rabbits
rows.
all day long.
Yeah, and I'd go, on the weekends when I was a kid, I'd walk the fence rows and stuff. We like you said, you'd always see a
I never ever went. I never went out late at night with a flashlight and killed any rabbits.
No.
I hope you didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
Because that's very illegal.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying I would walk the
Illegal?
fence rows. Oh yeah. Yep.
But
What,
nobody
rabbits are-
I know ever did that.
So rabbits are like a protected species
At night.
How is that illegal?
At night,
At night.
shooting guns is
Yeah.
not usually, it's frowned upon.
Really?
But when you live out in the county, it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, I was
No,
gonna say out in the county. What does it matter?
It's still illegal.
Come here, Peter Cottontail. Let me give you a little lead. Pow!
Anyway.
But no, it was during the daytime. But as a kid growing up, I had my little H&R 410 shotgun, and
That's what I started with.
410, baby.
yeah, and I'd jump up, by myself, go jump up covey of quail. Wasn't a very good shot, but every once in a while I'd knock one out.
A bird would get in the way of where you were pointing.
Yep.
I don't have a 410 anymore, but I have a judge. So
And then I'd hunt rabbits. That's all gone now. So what we're looking at doing is especially
what do you mean by all gone now? Like their population is
gonna
gone.
interrupt you.
there's just no cover for them. There's nothing left for them no habitat. So what we're looking at doing is basically putting some productive trees in where basically we would put some permanent fencing in. Right now, everything is portable fencing. It's electric netting.
For livestock, you got to move it around. You got to move it around. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean our perimeters and stuff, we couldn't put in a permanent fence. And our thought is do like they call silvopasture. I don't know if you've heard of that, where they plant trees back in there and the livestock can
natural corridors.
Yep.
Natural corridors. Yeah.
And what we'd like to do is then bring some, let it grow up and leave that with it being fenced in too. You're going to protect, your rabbits and your quail. And,
I would love to get involved in those kind of projects.
Yeah, it's to me, it was part of like growing up. I would consider our family kind of subsistent. We grew all of our vegetables. We hunted. We grew livestock. My grandmother raised me most of my life, and my great grandpa Pop and
grandparents all the way.
Yeah,
my grandparents were pretty much my parents too.
Yeah, that was a good time. And, I didn't realize how lucky I was. We made everything. She made our own ketchup.
Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn would not be on my playlist without my grandparents.
There you go.
Anyway,
there you go.
That's my little
He's got to get his music plug in there.
Heck yeah, Patsy Cline, baby.
But, having that, that was part of our meal. I'll tell you something else that's a bummer now is we had a creek that ran through our farm. And on Sundays after church in the spring and the summer, Pop was very strict. We never worked on Sundays. And so
Lord's Day.
Yep.
That's right.
But we could go fishing.
Oh yeah.
That's
not work. That's fun.
So we'd call the neighbors up and the aunts and uncles, and my dad would go down with it. He had this long cane pole, and he'd go down and start finding deep holes in the creek. And this creek ran on the family farm for probably 2 miles. And then we'd all go down there, and he'd take us down to pick up truck, and we'd fish. And then we would freeze those fish, and we'd have them year round. And, we'd have fish maybe once a week, but stuff we caught and cleaned and everything. And we caught, in that creek, we actually caught crappie, caught largemouth bass, we caught catfish, both channel cats, and then
is that Posey County?
Yeah, Posey County. It was Little Creek is the name of it.
Catfish.
And a lot of bluegill, rock bass. It was just a mixture that we ate. And Grandma opened up we had those cardboard milk cartons, and she'd put all those fish in there and fill it with water, and then she'd have them stacked in the deep freeze, and she'd pull one out. And so, but awesome. What happened today? There's no fish there other than carp and gar. And
carp, a lot of carp.
Yep. And that's all there is. And
so I'm not going to say what was the word we used.
I don't know where you're going.
It's one of those things that is just coincidental.
Anecdotal.
It's anecdotal. Same time the quail died off. Everything was happening to the land, the soil. Everything was running off into the creeks. Mm-hmm. And but you're right. The fish population. We didn't fish out all of the bluegill and the crappie and the bass. We didn't get rid of those. They were pushed out.
Oh yeah,
by their environment.
So wait real quick. I've heard that the Ohio River is actually better now than it was 20.
It is better,
30, 40 years ago.
But everywhere up between your hometown and Tell City and here, the water flows from you to us, and that's all farm. There's all creeks that's coming in from every farm. So you think it's
like pesticide runoff?
There's
like a lot of just bad
1,000%.
Runoff. Okay.
I wouldn't even blame it on the big
I'm surprised I don't have a third eye from going inner tubing on the Ohio River back in 1997.
Well, I wouldn't blame it on it's very convenient to blame it on the big corporations and the Alcoas and whatever. And of course they do probably put some things into the environment and into the water that they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. I fully believe, and I love farms, I love farmers.
Kind of like our teacher.
Everything going from those chemical paraquat runs into those creeks and into the ditches and into the rivers, and it kills everything around it.
So saying that, Brandon, are you seeing a lot of are many farmers getting wise to what's happening? I mean, going organic, or at least these pesticides are doing a lot of damage, that kind of stuff.
Here is what I would say. As Chad said earlier, they're kind of in a trap. Some of them do. I've actually had talks with and I don't want to name names, but there's actually a gentleman that I know of for a fact who is a chemical salesman who will not allow any chemicals to be used on his farm and around his house.
but yet he sells it.
Well, it's kind of like AI and tech experts that won't let their kids have AI and tech.
It's me.
It's
I am an AI and tech, and my kid can't really.
It's very similar to that.
I don't let her use a tablet except on the weekend.
Very similar. Okay.
And I have talked with quite a few farmers that believe that this is causing the problem. The problem is they're stuck.
Yeah.
I will tell you, doing this the way I'm doing it is hard. There are days.
Is there anything
physically
that,
hard or financially hard or what kind of hard?
All the above.
Is there anything
And-
easy that's good though?
No.
Really?
No.
I mean, we can talk about that
Yeah.
a little bit, but nothing that's really easy is really good.
Right. And if it was easy, it'd become
Everybody would do it.
Everybody.
become
That's
a
what I was heard.
commodity again.
If it's easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, so I
heard
actually
that
have
since
I
I
have
was
a
like
really, really short
10.
clip that actually ties right into this. It's not related to farming, but it tells the story of why things are the way they are, even with farmers. So you got the sound up?
Yep.
Some of them really have paid a heavy price for telling the truth. And they are cast out of their groups, whatever those groups are, but they do it anyway. And I look on at those people with the deepest possible admiration. I am paid to do that. I face no penalty. How about if you're a senior vice president at Citibank? I'm serious. At Citibank. And you're making, $4 million a year. And you've got 3 kids in Bedford and 2 are in boarding school and 1 starting at Wesleyan next year. And you need this job, honestly. And your whole sector is kind of collapsing and you know that. There is no incentive whatsoever for you to tell the truth about anything. You just go into the little re-education meetings and you're like, yeah, diversity is our strength. That's exactly right. We need equity in the capital markets. Okay, all right. So if you're the one guy who refuses to say that, you are a hero, in my opinion. And you
I love
So that was right to you, Brandon, because this is the window that I find myself in a lot. You say the unpopular thing, the uncomfortable truth. The uncomfortable truth is every farmer that I know is probably one of the most intelligent people that I've ever, if you really go sit down with a farmer, my neighbor growing up, my neighbor was a Stahl family, and I'm not going to mention their particular names, but go to IU, get top of your class, understand all the numbers, but you're handed a thing, and that the thing is to deliver the thing that is you're caught in this thousands of acre trap, and it's feeding your family. It's funding college funds. It is what it is, and what you're talking about is kind of the opposite of that. And how do we as a people demand these things to happen? Because I feel we've given farmers aid over the years because they're in a risky business and weather and droughts, and they didn't, a lot of them went bankrupt over the years because they were trying to do stuff and it just wasn't working. So then you get into a system that's fairly predictable, and now they have insurance. They're really not failing, but they're also not thriving. So now this is where we are. This is you made a good point, Travis, that we're in this funnel of we have to make a choice. Where are we going to spend our money? Do we need to spend money on paying insurance companies to do crop insurance and to do all these different programs? Or do we need to bite the bullet for a few years and turn something back around into we're making good soil again, we're making good water again, we're filtering everything out, food is good for our people, we can create enough food around each individual city to give those people locally sourced food products that are grown in their backyard. You're doing a little portion of that, but if you had people connected all the way around the city, my goal, my hope would be 100 Brandons doing 100 different things, and our grocery stores have these products packing them. That's my utopia.
Sure.
And so I feel like that's a difficult conversation whenever you have farmers that are doing the old way that you did, and you're hedging, you're investing, you've got bank loans, you've got all this stuff that you're piling in because you have the goal of being the big farmer, and that's what you're taught. But that's not really the reality of where we are.
Right.
So this is a deep, big question, philosophical question. But how do we get there?
Here's my opinion. I think
soil samples. No, I'm kidding with you.
You just messed up that whole clip.
No, I didn't.
I think there's a couple things. One, I think just by more people becoming more aware of the food. That's why I was so excited about Kennedy getting in office for this Maha movement.
He hasn't done as much as I hoped he would.
I know.
I think he's caught in Pharma. He's trapped in Pharma.
He is.
And Fiat money.
I would not want to be in his
big
shoe.
ag. What this is? So I actually teed this right up for Robert F. Kennedy, and for him to help answer what the real problem is. RFK is caught in the middle of. What I want to picture here is Tucker's talking about big ag farmers. They've built their seed companies, their agreements with these organizations, and they have to commit to planting their 1,000 acres and their 2,000 acres and their 3,000 acres because we have to ship all this stuff out. This is the agreements. This is how they get paid. They get less and less and less, but they got to do more and more and more, and it goes everywhere. Mm-hmm. So how do you reverse engineer that? Like, how do you stop the printing press and come back small? Like, you have to agree as a city or state of Evansville and or Indiana and say, we want to produce as much food as we can within the walls of what we can control. And here's the type of insurance or welfare we will give our farmers for this period of time. This is what I'm going to talk about. This is the number, the money game. How can we reallocate money? First of all, we'd have to get away from the banks, which is a Bitcoin story. That's why the Bitcoin and Bible thing is, to me, really kind of relevant to this conversation. Mm-hmm. And this is not going to make sense to a lot of people, except for probably the three people sitting around the table, and that's fine.
Three or two.
We'll figure it out. We're going to figure it out together, or at least we're going to force the conversation. It's a re-engineering of a mindset and the way that our society is structured and funded, and the farmers are right in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and it's just not working. The food is crap. It doesn't do any good really for humanity. We're creating processed stuff that we can ship all over the world. That's not good for anyone. Europe's not even buying our food anymore. No. Why is that?
And Mexico didn't want it, but I think they were kind of
forced into it.
Yep.
So no one wants to buy it because it's crap. Mm-hmm. And that's not the farmer's fault. No. That's the system that they're trapped in. That's the system that we need to get out of. That's why you're here.
Something you said too, there was a gentleman I met at an organic conference last year, or the year before last. He wrote the book Grain by Grain, and I can't remember his name, but I just happened to be sitting by him. I just read the book. It was so cool.
Travis will look it up. He brought his phone for that.
And I'm talking to this guy, and he says his name, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I know that name.
I know that name. I said, did you write a book? And he said, yes. And I had it with me. It was so cool, so I had him autographed.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But something...
Of course you did. That doesn't
Bob
surprise me.
Quinn and
Bob
Liz
Quinn.
Carlisle.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was Bob Quinn. Neat man. And what he said in that book, and we talked about it personally too with each other, the way that system works, it's still not helping the farmer on this subsidizing. What it does, it basically is a way of filtering that money to the seed companies, the fertilizer companies, the equipment companies. They basically
go another step or three higher.
The government,
the bank.
Yeah, there you go.
Government.
The bank.
Yep.
It's all built on the money has to go through BlackRock, through all of it. I mean, it's got to make money. We're basically shareholders in this investment. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
And that's so. I mean, this is to me why I sent you the Bitcoin, the Bible Bitcoin, trying to connect the dots for you, because I know you're probably not on the Bitcoin path, but to me, it's one of the only things that I have found as a store of value and as a fight against the system that we're competing against. There's a whole nother podcast that we can do about how that might overlap in your business now and into the future. Let's stick on.
Where are we on Bitcoin? We're at about 91,000.
The number doesn't really even matter to me.
No, it
anymore.
doesn't. You can hodl, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hodl thing, but it's more of a sound money basing something. Like, we went off the gold standard a long time ago, and then we created fractional reserve banking, which means you have to have forever inflation, forever printing more money, forever all these things. And all it does is squeeze the people that are actually working to make. If you took an acre, you made X amount of acres, and you tried to store it somewhere to invested into your next crop, that used to work when we were on the gold standard, and the money would retain. Now you go from one year to the next, and not only did you maybe make a little less in that 1 year, you have to take it, and the money's going to shrink every year for infinity.
Right.
There's no way out of that. I mean, we're investing in debt every year, and so you have to fix that there. So that's where I want to inject Bitcoin into this regenerative farming conversation to like actually have a real conversation. Not here today necessarily. I do have a lot of clips, but I mean, we're already at 7:30. We might get to the Bitcoin part of it. I still want to come back to the original thing that I put in front of you, which is everyone knows the problem. No one wants to talk about it. No one can talk about it because my buddies and friends that have seed distribution companies, they built something based on being very intelligent, having an opportunity, taking the opportunity, building the warehouse, building the things. I will never say that they made the wrong decision. I would never say I would have done something different because that's the system that they were in and that's what they were doing.
I totally agree.
You were trapped in that. Everybody's trapped in that. So like you're, to me, on the blip of change in farming, we're still in like early adoption phase of people really understanding that this not long-term can't work.
Did they take enough soil samples though?
The soil samples.
They will.
But we really have to, we really have to, Brandon, I'm going to challenge you here not to make a comment on this, but to every standard farmer that you know has to be in the education cycle of understanding that this is a downward spiral. And you were an early adopter of being trapped in the spiral that and you got bit. I was in an industry where it was web development and SEO, and I was trying to grow a big company and have great people and to do all these things. Meanwhile, everything that I was doing was being outsourced to India and China. So the people that were winning were shrinking their own footprint and just making a little bit more money until now AI is going to take over and do it all. So, I was very early in that trap, and it was painful, and it's still painful today, and I'm trying to rebuild from that. But the farming is a whole nother thing, but it's the same trap.
Yep.
So I'm just going to give you some time if you want to say what you think or
How to get out of this?
how to get out of it.
Okay.
Not from your own personal perspective.
No,
just
right.
From a
So-
30,000 foot.
There is, and I don't know who is getting this going, but one thing, it was almost impossible to insure organic crops. Now you can do that. That is a big factor because if you can, and there again, it is the government subsidizes all the crop insurance that we get.
We need to change that.
And I agree with you. But if they're going to put it somewhere,
I'm thinking Bitcoin,
I will tell you,
Bitcoin insurance, actually.
if they're going to put it somewhere, I'd like it to at least be the ones that are trying to improve the quality of food what people are getting. That being said, I'm not saying I'm for it or for anything. I wish the government was totally out of agriculture altogether. I think they screwed it up. I think supply and demand would have worked out. We would not be in this mess we're in now.
Didn't take enough soil samples.
That's right.
Well, you don't even know the ostrich story.
Ostrich story?
We could probably talk for 20 or 30 minutes about Brandon's ostrich story, which was, again, an early indicator of lobbyists, crony capitalists, big corporations, USDA, moving the needle as to what people were going to get versus what people wanted and what was best.
Yep.
But anyway, on this side.
Yeah, we got a good lesson in that. so.
You did, and I just learned from you. But, that's it.
But anyway, I guess short term, I will tell you that will be an incentive for people to try to start growing better.
So just insurance.
Yeah.
Just having their
Knowing
asses
you've got
covered.
something to protect you.
CYA clause?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't even know it was possible. I'd heard about it, and I contacted a local crop insurance salesman and asked him, is this true? He said, yes. And so we're going to meet. I don't even know how it all works. I don't know if they cover a portion of it or whatever. Or if you can insure for a portion of the losses. I have no idea. I haven't even met with him yet. But to me, it is good news and makes me more willing to step out a little further. And I think it opens an opportunity for some of these farmers that are stuck in these conventional farming. Why would, you put yourself in a conventional farmer's shoes. Even though he's not going to make much, I know this year I've got one of the guys I actually organic farm with still has about half of his land is still conventional, and he's gradually working it out. But at least he knows he can insure that ground. So he's not willing to jump out of it because at least he knows he's got something coming in. That being said,
But he can slow roll into the other.
He can slow roll into it now. But I will tell you this off. Getting out of the subject a little bit, but he made no money farming this year. He lost money for every conventional acre he put out. The organic, our yields were down terrible because of the drought this year, but we made a profit. He and I farmed together, and that was the only thing he did with all his farm operation was our.
So just to kind of put a point on that, as the soil gets better and better, the drought would be less and less of an issue.
Definitely.
So we are in a window of time where insurance makes sense to me.
It does.
Insurance is supposed to be a short term protection.
Yep.
And then you learn from it. Like if you have a house that got wiped off the planet, and you're in an area that tornadoes are going to go through every 5 years, you probably should just live underground.
Yep.
No,
you're right.
I mean, the reality of it is you got to adapt.
Bunker time.
You have to adapt to your environment.
Yep.
And so we have to learn from those experiences. And I think what this will do is take us back to the older times when our great grandpas, like you talked about, would do the things based on knowledge and understanding of this is going to happen again. It happened. It maybe only happens once every 10 years or 20 years, but it's going to happen. So are we prepared for what's about to happen? I think the Bitcoin insurance for farmers thing, I haven't done that research. I feel like that might be something to really poke into. And you're probably super early into the Bitcoin story.
Yeah, in fact,
the book that I asked you to,
I listened to the.
It's only like 2 hours, less than 2 hours.
Yeah,
and Bible. What is it?
Yeah, it was the Bible and Bitcoin. Is that right?
I've got it written down somewhere.
Yeah,
the Bible and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
and the I got the author that I'll give a shout out.
So
to.
yeah, I actually finished it up while I was pulling a disc down the road today back to the farm. So
right before the engine died.
yeah.
Farmer. Such a farmer way to say that.
That was like, you can't listen to this anymore. This is going to destroy everything, Mr. Pfeiffer.
But another thing on this being able to, there is a demand, but something you said earlier, and that kind of I wanted to go back to. There is an affordability issue, and this is something that really bothers my daughter. And in fact, the other day a lady was cutting my hair, and she goes, she asked me what I did for a living. I said I was an organic farmer. She said, I would love to be able to eat all organic food. The problem is I can't afford it. I'm trying to feed. I've got 3 kids, and
I would love to semicolon.
Yep.
However,
yep, and she can't afford it, and I totally understand. I feel like here's the issue too. Organic.
Quit subsidizing crap.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Move on. You can go right quick past that.
Even if I just don't know if you're ever, or right now, if you're going to get away from subsidizing that. So what I am thinking,
again, Bitcoin comes in
to do this.
Bitcoin.
And yeah, and I'd love to hear more on that too. But what we're doing with our farm is we are really focusing hard to vertically integrate. The feed costs, there's so much demand for the organic feed that we just can't get the cost down. That's why the meat prices are so high. If we grew it ourselves, even if we paid ourselves what we can sell it to the feed mills and stuff for, I think we could reduce our cost at least by a third.
So what you're saying,
vertically integrated.
What you're saying is the government has their thumb on the scale, and they're making the organic feed so expensive and subsidizing the crap to the point where it doesn't make sense to have good food.
Well, I'm not even sure. I think part of the problem is
That's what it feels like to me.
is
Is what
demand, though. So you've got these they're still chicken confinements, which is awful. But
every time I drive by one, you get within a mile, and I want to like. I can smell it right now.
You can smell it coming.
I can smell it right now, and I'm gagging.
My problem is,
that smells delightful.
my problem is with that, and that's why I was never interested in raising livestock, because all I was ever, as I got older, and nobody, when I was a kid, everybody raised, their hogs out in the open, their chickens out in the open.
I grew up next to cattle, and
Yeah.
you get used to that.
Yeah. But now
Smells like Bessie dropped another
It smells like a big load of cow poop.
Yeah.
That's what it smells like.
But I don't know if you've ever been in one of these confinements. But it's the
No,
most,
yeah,
they're even worse.
it's the most
I drive.
depressing
It's the most
thing.
disgusting.
My wife's father lives up in Mount Carmel, and we drive past I think it's a turkey farm. Turkey farm. Every time we go up there, oh my god, we have to shut the vents off to like not smell that.
Yeah,
It's awful.
It is, and that's something that's really cool. Like with even our hogs, because we're moving them every week, and my son lives out. My wife and I bought my grandma's house, and that I was telling you about that land we bought too, and we've got pigs and chickens on that right now, and he goes, he was pretty upset about hogs being there behind his house. He goes, Dad, I don't even smell them. I said, I know, it's because we keep moving them. Every week we're moving them again. So they're on fresh ground, and they work that ground up enough that it's almost like tilling the soil, but they've worked all those, all the plants that they haven't eaten, everything's gotten mixed in there. And then we move them to a new area, and you just don't get those strong smells. Same with the chickens, because we're moving them every day. And incidentally, we don't use any antibiotics, any vaccines, any growth hormone. We don't do anything.
You're what organic is supposed
Purist,
to be.
I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just a word of caution and a buyer beware, because you read something in a local grocery store that says organic doesn't always necessarily mean it is 100% organic. There's labeling issues, there's USDA issues, there's FDA issues that's overlapping. The thing about buying local and decentralized with someone like Brandon and Yunker Farms and everything that you're trying to do is you have accountability to your neighbors. You have accountability to me. Because I'm your friend, I've been your friend for a damn long time. And if I find out if you're not doing what you're saying you're doing and you're selling junk,
Right.
first of all, I'm going to come to you personally and say, what is it that you're doing? You shouldn't. I'm not going to buy it first and foremost, but I'm going to tell everyone I know.
Oh, yeah,
And
don't
then you're
buy
going to
it.
get canceled really quick.
You bet.
So, I mean, the thing that we come back to here is the big ag and USDA and all these different structures that come together is there's all deniable plausibility where no one knows where anything comes from exactly, and it's just organic and pay more. Like you go buy organic bananas versus non-organic bananas or any other fruit, and there's a big chunk of money that's in between those two. There might not be any difference in the product in the product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because who's really actually keeping control of that? But anyway, that's my decentralized buy local thing. Is like I can hold you accountable as my friend. If you come onto my property and tell me you're going to do something with my land, I'm looking at the land, I'm looking at the results, I'm looking at what you're showing me the numbers wise. I'm like, we got this. This is good.
Right.
We're going in the right direction. Let's sell it to our friends. Let's sell it to the people we love.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Something you probably heard of Joe Salatin. He was the forefather. of all this.
OG regenerative farming guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And something he does for his farm, and that's what we want to do. In fact, that land that I told you we bought on the family farm, what we want to do that is make that basically where, say somebody shows up, we want to have a 24-hour, 7 days a week. If they come through there, they can come see our farm. We have nothing to hide.
Wow.
And that's what he does too.
100% transparency.
Yep.
Transparency.
And so we're cleaning that up right now. It's not ready yet, but that's what our goal is to do that. Then
Solid, dude. That's awesome.
and then we're trying to work with other farmers. Maybe we're doing some partnerships with another farm or another landowner that wants to organic farm, doesn't have the money to do the equipment and the livestock. So we're doing a 50-50 deal to help them. They get to work with it. And so we take them to show them, so we'll have different types of setups. And
So what you're telling me, and I've got a thick skull, so I'm really sorry. I asked you a question probably about 30 minutes ago, and you was like, how do we get from where we are to where we're going? You're basically telling me it's a slow process.
It is.
But it's little little chunks that chip away on the edges of small farms that weren't sucked into this larger vacuum. There could be some of the sharecroppers people that are considering CRP stuff. There could be, this farmer. I like him. We've talked to him forever. We love him. The family's always been good to us. However, the margins and the numbers keep getting lower and lower. And where are we going? Mm-hmm. At some point, we have to have a moral discussion about what we're doing in our city, in our county, in our state. And I think the little pieces and parts of it is actually where you are.
Yep.
You're in that little nuanced section of, I have a story to tell, and here's how I think this is going to happen. It can happen in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Could happen in 5 years.
Right.
Let's create a 10-year plan.
And that's what I want to help other small farmers do the same thing. And if they don't want to do all the risks and stuff, that's our goal is to be able to help them, work from a marketing standpoint. That doesn't mean we want to be the only marketer out there, but there are a lot of people that I've run into that's just got them horrified on where am I going to go with this stuff if I can't.
Well, an older person that's set, and this is what we've always done. This is where we are. It's just like talking to you. You're a very financially intelligent person. Talking to you about Bitcoin, I think you understand why the potential is there, potentially because the money is bad. The fiat currency is bad. So you're open, like you at least open-minded to hearing and learning and understanding new things. Whereas a lot of people are just like, we're riding this out. This wave, no matter what it is, we're going to be okay. We're going to collect. We're going to keep as much cash around us and hoard, and we're going to survive. And there's something to be said about that. I'm not even. That's what our ancestors had to do whenever the depression hit and the dollar. They had to do. There was a run on the bank, and my family lost a big chunk of our farm because they didn't. The money took the bank took the money out of the bank took our money out, and they couldn't pay the taxes. So they were trapped in that. Mm-hmm. So it's the cycle over and over again. And at some point, we have to have a more intelligent conversation. Luckily, with technology, with conversations like this, with things that we can get together and say, we've seen this pattern. We know what happened to our parents and what happens to our grandparents, what happens over and over and over again. Are we ever going to get smarter? Mm-hmm. Are we just going to hope that the next politician that we put into office is going to care more about us than they care about themselves and their own little pocket of power? And I think we can pretty well determine that's not it.
Yeah.
Give me a 10-minute ostrich story. So Brandon used to be in an ostrich business a long, long, long time ago. Do you have a 10-minute version or a 5-minute version? Can you clip it? Can you clip it?
Yep.
Say how big it, say where you started, how big it got, and then what happened real quick.
So what happened when the U.S. started having trade sanctions against South Africa? The U.S. was one of the largest importers of ostrich leather products, for handbags and boots and everything. All of a sudden, when they implemented the trade sanctions, it was the second most valuable leather in the world. The U.S. was one of the biggest buyers of it. They couldn't get it. So my dad, I can't take the credit for it. He was the first one saying, we got to figure out a way to get ostrich products here.
Local ostrich.
Yeah. Well, but it started out, he had this idea of, he went over to South Africa and he found out that the U.S. would allow us to trade with the black homelands. It's kind of like a Indian reservation. U.S. considered them sovereign nations in South Africa. And he goes over there and there's a guy that's got an ostrich farm there. And he's also got a tannery. So Dad takes some of the hides back, and as soon as he shows them that, like, I think it was Acme boots, and then Justin boots, and then there's another one that did boots for Loveless boots. They did them for the movie stars and the special
big brands. Yeah.
Yep. And every one of them went crazy and just bought everything he could bring in. So then that's when he was like, we need to figure out if we can get these ostrich to the United States. So he brought those in. They were the first ostrich to come in since the turn of the century, back during the feather boom of the late 1800s. And when he got him over here, flew him over on a C-130 and landed in Newburgh, New York, and then started a business. Well, I helped him, but I I really, at that time, I'm going to have to admit, I thought he was crazy.
You were a helper.
I was a
You were
helper.
just there because your dad
Yeah.
wanted you to be there.
Yeah. And what was the big, and I wasn't involved. I was going to college. I wasn't involved in the financial end of it or anything. I just helped with it. And one day I went to Raymondville, Texas, which is right on the Mexico border. And there was, he wanted to know if I could haul a load of ostrich down. And my roommate from college and I drove down there, and he said, he'll give you a check when you get there. And he gave me a check for it's like $300,000. And I'm like, wait a minute here. What is going on?
Brandon needs to rethink. This
Yeah.
is not a terrible idea.
I'm like, wow, we didn't take that many ostriches.
I got to remath this.
Yeah. And I'm like, when I get back, I
Carry the one.
So
A pencil.
So after that, I got back and I was like, I wanted to talk to Dad more about this. I said, why do he pay so much for it? And he said, well, they believe there's going to be a commercial market for him here. He said the leather is extremely valuable in the U.S., but on top of that, he said the meat's healthy. And he started telling me all this stuff where I never paid attention to that. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I said, is there any way I could buy into your business? He said, no. He said, there's we've got an agreement between his partners and everything that it's them. Mm. So long story short, I decided, I said, well, would you be mad at me if I started my own? And he goes, no, go for it. And so I worked all the way through high school and had $10,000 saved up and never spent, and found a male ostrich, a female ostrich, and next thing I know, the price went crazy on them, and somebody bought them, and so I went and bought some more. Well, then I started growing. My business kept growing, and Dad's was growing, and it was a farm. I mean, basically, it was a business.
And you had land in Arizona or something, right?
Well, we bought that later, but what finally happened, Southwind, the farm that my dad owned, was just growing exponentially, and they had some selective bred birds that they had brought in from South Africa that produced way beyond what the average bird could produce. It was a more docile bird because an ostrich can be very aggressive. Mm-hmm. Well, they had a real domesticated one, and everybody wanted that, and he could not keep up with the demand. And his partner, I was doing really well on my own. Heck, by the time I graduated from college, I think my first year out of college, I did $250,000, which that was back in the 90s. Early in 1991, I guess.
Not a small amount of money.
Yeah, for a guy just out of college, when an average person was making $18,000 a year first job, and I was doing really well. And finally, they made me a offer to come to work for them, and I said, and they wanted me to run their. They were had quarantine stations where they were bringing ostrich eggs in from Botswana. I said, only way I'm interested is I got to be a partner. Mm-hmm. And so they bought me out, and I did a stock for stock trade. And then we really start expanding. That's when we bought a 1,200 acre ranch in Arizona. And then we put a quarantine station in Chicago, New York, and on Long Island and Hicksville. Then we did a joint venture out in LA, and we brought the eggs in, we incubated them there. And then we had buyers as fast as we could get them. There was farmers buying these. And then there was a couple processing plants that started. They started, the culls were being processed for meat. It was really doing well.
So the hide was still in demand.
Yeah, the hide was still in demand.
And you were selling ostrich meat.
Yeah,
which I think if anyone that's been to the local fall festival or whatever,
mm-hmm. Yeah, we supplied
that, and then there was by all that kind of different. I don't know what alternative
mm-hmm.
meat
yeah,
would be.
What's interesting about the meat, and I still think today, it would be a great meat for people. We've even talked about getting a few back on the farm again.
I'd like to know. We need to get back into the regulations and what's changed since then. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish the
so
story.
Anyway, the meat, real quickly, is it's lower in fat and the bad cholesterol than chicken or turkey.
Is it kind of like buffalo?
Tastes more like it's even closer to beef than buffalo.
It's very lean and
very lean.
Just
it's the whole thing's like eating a filet mignon. Is basically it's not a, like, how your filet does not have marbling in it, and it's the same way. Yeah. So you cook it quick. It's the flavor's incredible, And so anyway, what we dealt with, the USDA decided that ostrich would not be considered an amenable species. So that meant that we had to, the farmer or whoever's taking the ostrich in to be processed had to pay for the USDA inspection.
Good old government intervention.
This is the kind of the beginning of fuckery. The word that I love is where the government decides.
The word fuckery?
Yeah.
And
okay.
So the lobbyists on one side decide they can't do this because this is going to cut into our slice and our lobbyist money and everything that we're trying
Yeah,
to do.
and what was really bad is we had formed an association called the American Ostrich Association. I wasn't one of the founders of it, and my dad really fought this. He's like, we're not going to do any better. Let's just accept it. And my dad's argument was, if we accept this and we don't keep pushing them, we will never be able to provide affordable beef. I mean, affordable ostrich meat. We will never be competitive in the market. And even them, they wouldn't.
And he was right.
He was right. Yeah. And so anyway, that's what the USDA, they could, and what's sad, I think even, and I may be wrong on this, but I think even frogs are considered an amenable species, bullfrogs. So, I mean, it was crazy that it was not. I
mean, so all this comes to me back to people at the top deciding that people in the middle can't create, like, we can't create a series of lakes and have bullfrogs. We can't have and sell those bullfrogs, and because frog meat is really damn good.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
I freaking love a frog leg like no tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And there could be a season where my family just ate frog leg off of the lake. And guess what?
They're gone.
They're all going to grow. They're all going to grow back again next year because we're not going to kill them all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, so there's a sustainable nature to everything that we're trying to accomplish. Again, as individuals on a planet where governments and bureaucracy and AIs are all like, they're all going to be like taking more and more and more, and we have less and less control. Whereas I think the independent farmer, small farmers, what you can do to control a small lake on your property and eat fish off their property, the deer coming in and out of your property, like, should you really be regulated by what you need to feed your family based on what the government's telling you need to feed your family?
Totally agree.
This is the crux of everything, going back to like Travis's family, probably with people that he knows in Paragon, has enough land and whatever to sustain his whole family and everyone else if they were just allowed for, I don't want to say free range. I'm not saying we go crazy and whatever, but it's like we just need to be allowed to do what our ancestors did, which is make the most out of the land that we have and what we've got, and do better and better and make it better and better and more efficient.
Yep.
So I'm not suggesting we don't need better ideas, but that's where podcasts and conversations like this come in, and you can bring in old knowledge, like all the old knowledge, your grandpa's grandpa, the people on that bag of popcorn, that information's died with him. And so like part of the goal for me on the podcast is to like, I don't want the information you have in your head to die with you. Like your ostrich story is important because you have government overreach coming in at a very early time and saying this could feed more people. We have filet mignon, and this is how much it costs to bring this bird in. We can replicate, we can feed it. What's the problem with that?
Yeah.
I don't understand what the
That was
problem is.
another thing is the feed conversion ratio of an ostrich is unbelievable. I mean,
So explain that in non-farmer nerdy language.
So, and I it's been a few years, so I can't remember the exact amount, but for like every 2 pounds or 2.2 pounds that ostrich ate through its growing period until it reached 14 months of age, it would gain like a pound. I mean, it was just such an efficient eater. In fact, when the birds would poop, you didn't even get a green spot there. They had taken all the nutrients.
It's kind of like a deer.
Yeah.
Deer just has little pellets that look like rabbits. It's a big
it's
rabbit, and it's a much bigger animal.
Exactly. So they're such an efficient eater. Another thing that happened too with the collapse of the ostrich market, that was the big hit. But then all of us thought, well, we still got the leather market. Well, then the U.S. dropped trade sanctions against South Africa, and South Africa has this thing called the Klein Karoo Cooperative. It's basically like a mafia, government-backed mafia that controls the world's supply of ostrich leather. they discounted the ostrich leather and flooded our market.
Yeah. They got their finger on the.
Yep.
They got a finger on it.
Yep. And so they lowered the price so low on the leather that we couldn't even produce an ostrich for what they were selling the hides for. So it just destroyed that. And the market has come back, but it's not as strong as it was then, but it's still high dollar.
Well, I mean, I think you still understand the market. You still understand how to do what you did. Mm-hmm. And like the decentralization of it, if we can figure out a way to unscrew up what they screwed up, I feel like another farmer could come in and do that again, making sure that the regulations weren't going to squash it again. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, that's the problem is we got to get to the regulatory sector and stop them from just doing whatever they want to do.
Right.
Why I'm defending and okay with RFK right now and not like coming back to what you said that I feel like he could do more. He's actually has his finger on what is going on at the FDA, USDA, and all that, and how the regulatory model screws the little guy and screws decentralized healthy food. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's where we are. We need to unscrew that pony, and however we do it, I don't know. But I mean, I think we're talking about the right things. We just need other people that are willing to step out and have the conversation.
Sure.
And like the next senator of Indiana or the next president of the United States needs to have a little more gumption, I guess. Mm-hmm. Travis has been really quiet. He ate all the popcorn. He's ran out of bourbon, so I don't know exactly what
I'm popcorn and bourboned out, but I'm okay. I'm just listening.
So I got this should get Travis a little more excited. I got a clip from Megyn Kelly here where it's a little bit older, but it's talking about regenerative farming. And I feel like this might have been several months ago, but it's something to listen to. And then where are we at on time?
Yeah,
it's a little after 8.
10 after 8, yeah.
Okay. So what I hope to do out of this conversation, Brandon, is to, first of all, I think we could talk very regularly and have very good conversations. Sure. And hopefully make some changes happen, which I think are super important. Let's listen to this. I don't know why I queued it up right now, but this is where it is. Let's do it.
Obama and Joe Biden have been funneling into wind and solar energy, which is very inefficient. It costs so much. It requires so much land and toxins and reliance on the Chinese and so on. Why don't we funnel that into American farmers to help them switch
100%.
over to regenerative farming?
100%. It's one of the best things we can do for the environment, for the climate, for energy. I mean, there's so much oil used in farming. People don't realize it's a huge amount of the inputs are all oil-based, the fertilizers, the pesticides, the amount of oil usage, I have the big machinery. All that is enormous amount of oil that we use just to grow vegetables and grow corn and grow soy and wheat. So that can be changed.
So for me, that one was like a kind of a transition of we still need oil, and we have a war.
I still love that Landman. That whole monologue.
Do you watch Landman?
Yeah. With the wind turbines and stuff.
That was so good when he had that comment.
I wish.
So great.
You need to. So here's my challenge to you, Travis, because that came up like 3 times. I want you to have like whatever that clip is, that 3-minute clip. We need to have that queued up. So I feel like right now we could say, here's what it actually looks like. Here's what's going on, and we have all these different, vectors that we're being attacked from. That you and I have, I think, had probably some of the more in-depth conversations over time, Brandon, than anyone, and we both understand the struggles and the things that are going on, but we don't really understand how to put our finger on it, and how to fix it, and how do you step back from it and reevaluate, and rather than playing into the system and just going along to get along, you and I both have kind of the FU. This isn't what we're doing. We're not agreeing to. We have our grandpa spirit.
Check your FB Messenger, Chadwick.
Okay, I will do that. So we have our grandfather's spirit of we're not okay with what we're seeing. We're not okay with what we're hearing. We see the degeneration of our farms, the controlling mechanisms that tell us what we can and can't do, how we've been controlled, how the ostrich business is. The bigger money, whoever has the bigger lobbyists has their finger on the pulse. Like this is where I think we're at that time in our lives, and we have to give this to our kids. That the only way that we're going to fix it is if we get involved and we talk about it.
Definitely.
And that's what this conversation is, the starter. And your kids are very smart. I know they're all probably fighting for their own survival and making the best of what they have. But I mean, like, we need to pass this knowledge along to them as not the government is out to get you, or like you can't make it or whatever. Like, you have to learn from these things, and you have to take the tools that you're given, and you have to adapt to it, and you have to fight the fights that need to be fought. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what you do every day, just trying to create the product that you're putting out, and the popcorn that Travis annihilated and smashed his face.
I don't know what you're talking about. That popcorn.
The only thing he could do is a corn mash, and we could make probably some pretty good alcohol from that, I imagine. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But
like,
the moral of the story is, like, you're a fighter. You've been on the brink of the Ostrich. I remember that story back when we were working in the company that we were working together, and that was like, I was up on a cloud, and then like everything kind of collapsed under me, and here I am in this shithole. Which luckily we met each other, and now here we are talking about it again, which is a nice full circle moment.
And it gave us both incentive to get out of there.
Oh my God! Well, it was, and like we knew, like, we're not going to be here. We're not going to be here, dude. I mean, let's have this conversation and this meal together, and let's talk about how we're not going to be here tomorrow.
That's right.
So that's what we did every day. But our kids, you said it is the affordability crisis that's going on around them. Is the money is collapsing around them. The pressures are coming in from all angles. So I'm like, we have to figure out a way to fight our way out of that. Yeah. Which is kind of the bigger picture thing. So.
All right, we're back, everybody. I was talking to Brandon about
put the camera on. There you go.
Well, to Brandon, I can put it to me. Whatever. I mean, I haven't been on here very often, but I've also destroyed an entire thing of popcorn, a couple of glasses of bourbon, and
he's well fed.
I'm well fed, well drank, and right. Here I am. But I'm still pushing the buttons at around the right time.
That's right.
Anyway. So we took a pause, mainly for me, because I had to go tinkle, and everybody else did as well. But while we were off camera, I was just talking to Brandon a little bit about the corn, and I honestly don't know what is the difference between just like regular corn you see growing versus popcorn.
So the corn that's grown out in the field here, that's what they call it, dent corn. When it dries, it gets a little dent in it. Mm-hmm. If you try to pop that, nothing's going to happen.
Okay.
The popcorn and Indian corn, that all goes under like a flint corn. There's moisture inside of that, and it doesn't crinkle down and everything, leave a dent. I mean, it's just a bulge. And so when you heat it up, that steam starts building inside of that.
Okay.
And
so it's like a moisture corn.
Yep.
I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know we were before we left things.
Well, I mean, so it's we're 2.5 hours in or so.
2:16.
I feel like we probably could be here for another 2 hours, really, really easily.
I don't think my wife would like that.
No, and you need to put your daughter to bed. So this is kind of where we are. I feel like we probably need to wrap it up. But what I'll say is, Brandon, I feel like we have several different things that we could have an ongoing conversation about. And I know you're busy. I know you're doing all these different things, and I know how you work, and I know you've probably turned down 25 calls while we were sitting here with different deals that you're trying to do. However, I feel like this is kind of, there's so many big things that need to be resolved, that we need smart people with experience, people that have dealt with these things, that we're passing kind of how we fix it, or here's how we think we can fix it, and trying to gain momentum with other people to fix things. I mean, really, that's what we're trying to do all the time. If you're in business, you're trying to solve problems. You're trying to, like, this person needs this thing. How can I make the thing at a price where I can pass the thing along and make a little money and be happy and make them happy, right? So the goal for me from an anti-tyranny perspective is, it seems like more and more we have the people not like us have their thumb on the scale, getting in the middle of regular commerce, regular just, I can grow a cow, give you a cow, you can give me money for a cow, or I can trade you for apples or whatever thing that I have to trade, and there's always people trying to get in the middle of that. And, we're not going to get into the Bitcoin story tonight, even though I asked you to read that thing. I think there's a whole nother probably podcast we could talk about how that could affect industries, affect farming, affect the things that we're trying to fix. Let's try to wrap it up. Let's try to tell me kind of if there's anything you don't think we covered tonight, or anything that you wanted to hit before you got here. What is that thing? Take a minute to just, if you have something like that, fine. If not, we can just kind of recap and then make a plan to come back and do it again.
Sure. I think we pretty well covered what I want to cover, but the thing I'd like to reiterate is we've got to get the cost and figure out ways to get this cost down to be able to provide food for people that can't afford, healthy food. And I don't know the exact answer other than, like I said before, trying to do more vertical integration. And I think you can take some more modern types of agriculture and mix that with this organic process to get the cost down too. But I think just by people being educated on the healthy end of it, and then more people being able to afford it, I think it's going to almost force the industry to go that direction.
Well, you're not really forcing an industry, though. We're forcing money,
right? Yeah.
Which again, so why we didn't get to the Bitcoin story, where I feel like that gives us a little bit of leverage. Like what we're talking about is we don't really have the leverage to put the thumb on the scale a little bit more to individual people, sovereign people, decentralized. Let's just make our community better, and then whatever we have left over from our community, if we need to go fight a war, let's contribute to the war, or let's,
Right.
like we really have gotten away from affordability because we're sending money to people that are spending money on things that we can't control.
True.
So we didn't get into Bitcoin, and we're way too deep into the weeds today and too long into it. But this is where I feel like we hit on some really good points in the farming piece of it. Like I think we've identified, you've lived through the struggles of farming. You've lived through what the big ag people that are what we consider successful farmers, who are, for all intents and purposes, successful. They're not going out of business tomorrow. Like most of them are going to be okay, but they can see the trend line, and even the smart ones can see it, and our friends can see it. So we have to engage with those people in whatever way possible. Hopefully we came up with enough clips today or ideas to spark a conversation. Several of the people that we know mutually, I have reached out to, and two of them specifically said, "Don't stop talking about what you're talking about with these things. These are very important. I can't get in the middle of it right now. I can't, So everybody has the reason. What Tucker said is most people can't speak out about it. I appreciate the fact that you put yourself in a position where you can come out and speak about it.
Sure.
And you can take your knowledge and your what you've learned, and we can pass it to. Not just pass it, we're going to fix problems ourselves, but we can take that mindset and hand it off to the next generation. We'll just wrap it up. I thank you for being a friend for a very long time. Thank you for always being open to come and talk. I miss our conversations at weird hours of the night whenever we were working on a line in a factory, but I don't miss it, but it's because this, I think, gives us actually a better spot.
Sure.
We can take this and empower other people to fight back against the things that we are learning. And I think from now ever forward, all I have to do is put your popcorn in front of Travis, and I think that's really all it's going to take. I'll put the whole thing below.
Dude, this was full.
He's going to come in and
this
swim.
Was full.
He's going to swim in popcorn.
Oh, I do have a story I wanted to share about the popcorn
Here we go.
too.
Let's go.
And then I'll shut up after this. But when you were talking about saving seeds, we got off the subject, how basically when I grew up, my great-grandpa Pop Yunker and my grandmother would save a certain amount of seeds back. We always had a seed bank saved back. And every year we did it in case, they both survived the Great Depression, and they were always prepared.
My dad and grandpa did the same kind of stuff.
So same thing. Yeah. So anyway, we had, when I was a kid, there was a certain variety of popcorn that we always planted, and it was just from saved seed. And I think what it was is when my family came over from the Junker family came over from Germany, a lot of those seeds had been passed down that long.
Das ist gut, ja.
Yeah.
Sehr gut.
But anyway, we had this little black popcorn that they had brought over, and it was a little seed. It wasn't as big as this. Had a real white pop or kernel, or that's not the right word. I'm trying to think what they call it once it busts open. There's a word for it, but anyway, the popcorn
I should know that.
was really white and really had a unique flavor. Well, when my grandmother died, the family, just trying to help out, decided to clean up her place, and somebody threw away all of her seeds. And have no idea who. There was a bunch of family members there helping. They probably thought nothing of it. Well, that popcorn was in that.
Oh my!
So I have been trying now for, I'm going to say probably 5 or 6 years to find that variety, and I have not had any luck. Well, it just so happens, are you familiar with Fehrenbacher cabinets?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So Bob Fehrenbacher and my dad were talking, and Bob said that he had some popcorn that his family had brought over.
It's a flake.
Flake, that's it.
It's called a flake once it pops.
You got it.
Thank you,
Yep,
Trav.
that's exactly. Thank you.
Yep.
But anyway, he was telling the story about how his family had these seeds they'd passed down, and Dad explained it to me. I go, that was it. And so I got in touch with one of Bob's sons, Zach Fehrenbacher, and he gave me a bucket full of their family seeds. So I'm going to plant it next year and just see what we can come up with, but try to recreate what we had on our farm. But it's such a unique flavor. It's
And that's a cool story.
Some Farron popcorn.
Farron popcorn. There you go.
That's going to be I think that's pretty cool, man.
It is. It's really neat.
Wow.
What is also cool is think about this. That popcorn originated in America. It made it over to Germany. Then it came back over here. And when like I said, I've tried to find this one similar to it, and I have not been able to till now.
Das ist nicht so gut. Das ist not. Nicht.
All right, my friend. So, man, what I feel like we tapped our toe in so many different things that, again, we could talk for another 2 hours, and I hope we can make the time to do it again sometime.
Love to.
Really soon.
Sometime you'll all have to come out, and I'll give you a tour of everything. We could mix that with
As long as I get more popcorn, I mean, I'll do whatever.
You could even you could come in the fall, and you could even harvest your own pieces.
Hey, look at us go.
Man, he's like dangling a carrot in front of him. Dangling a carrot here.
There you go.
All right, my friend. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful stories. You're welcome, as always. And Travis, thank you for being the man. You got a special treat tonight, extra bourbon and all the popcorn. Everyone out there listening for the first time or for many times, thank you for paying attention to what we're trying to get out into the world. And we want to continue having conversations like this with people like Brandon and Brandon again, because I feel like we have a lot of problems to solve and things that we can accomplish to pass on to the next generation. We are looking for people to help in all capacities. If you
help us,
if you can help in any way. We have several really good donors that are helping out. We're trying to look for a new podcast space to do more and more of these podcasts.
Donors, not boners.
I would actually like to have just a podcast focused on food, water, and regenerative farming, like a regular weekly podcast, doing things the news and other organizations should be doing. And this is they won't, but we will. So like part of the drive for me and continuing this conversation again, I feel like I could talk for another 2 hours. Is just because there's so many things that we can fix if we just add the right money into the right spot. Mm-hmm. And we need to quit spending money in directions that are not bringing us the results that we want. And I promise anyone that sends money this way right now, we are putting money towards conversations like this and to solving problems. And it's going to take people like Brandon Pfeiffer to show up. I think your wife helps me out so much with her research. She is fantastic. The story that you've talked about with Missy and your daughter and your other daughter, Delaney, and your son. I mean, I've heard you guys forever. And just seeing you guys grow and figure out these problems and solving each other's problems, it's just, this brings back why we are here. And I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer. Oh, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother thing.
Nice one, Travis. You threw that.
I knew you would get it in. No, that was somewhere.
Is that a Golden Girls reference?
It's
Is that what
Golden
you told me?
Girls. Yeah.
Do you know that reference?
The whole shtick is they go to the funeral home, and he's Mr. Pfeiffer, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Pfeiffer," and he goes, "No, it's Pfeiffer."
Hey, now here's something interesting. My great grandpa that lived to be 111 told me that that's how they originally pronounced it when they came here.
Was Pfeiffer?
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
that? Is that German? No, in French.
Well, actually, they're from and I don't remember what this area was called.
I'm German. Fisher with a C is totally
Schmidt.
German.
It was like a no man's
Schmidt. Achtung, die Schmidt.
German.
Achtung.
It was like a no man's land between France and Germany. I think it was. There was this.
No, it was Germany.
Yeah, but it was, and when he came over.
The French just survived because they could.
So we do have French in us and German.
Yeah. Very cool.
Is his name Pierre? No, I'm kidding.
We need to look at the map and see where
Yeah.
our families overlapped at some time. I'm sure we did.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sending love to you all.
Absolutely.
Please like, share, comment, and stay engaged. Appreciate y'all.
Eat the popcorn.
Eat the Pop Yonkers popcorn.
Pop
and
Yonkers. Pop's popcorn
if you can get
delicious.
their meat and get in the supply chain.
I don't know about their meat, but their popcorn is
No,
delicious.
their meat is good. I can attest.
Their meat is your
Well, not
meat
Brandon's
is
meat.
delicious.
See, wait a minute.
Brandon, your meat is delicious.
See, now I feel like we need to go another 30 minutes just to get out of this hole that we've dug ourselves.
Do you salt your meat? Is it salty? Sorry, that's my best. I got.
Oh, boy.
What I got. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Sending love.
It was a good time.
Thanks, Brando.
Have a good night.
See you, bub.